just press start and then
You don't get out much, but it's okay.
and then
Alright,
roll it over there. And then this is what I'm gonna do, excuse me guys.
alright. We're gonna keep this walkway.
Yeah, I mean, if you want. Excuse me.
Nah, yeah. More professional.
Yeah. All right. And then, ball, shot right there. All right.
Look, you wanna just put it on the table? It's too hot. You wanna sit it? Let's put this in the hole. We want to eat, right?
Alright, and then, yeah. So,
Alright, bro.
boom.
We didn't get that on camera.
Thanks for sharing.
No, it's cool, bro. That burp was just
All
treacherous.
natural video.
Let me see. I think it is upstairs. Cause I don't think I left.
Yeah,
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah.
No, I think I seen it in something, like a bag or something.
Yeah. It's cool. It's cool though. We already started.
Okay. Is that my cue? I should start talking now.
No, you good.
Okay.
Whatever you feel free. I'm just recording just because I'm excited to actually have this working. So I'm like, man, you understand, bro?
Okay.
Messed
Good.
up situation.
And you can see it on the TV while switching, though. Gangsta, yo. That is just so gangsta. That's so gangsta. Took me a long time to get it right. I got it right.
Well, I'm not going to look at the camera. I'm going to look at you guys because you're sitting right here.
Okay.
That's the best way to do it. So, thank you for being here. This is just a conversation among 5 people. All right, it's not like a big fancy thing, which is probably better because it just means we can talk rather than me present. You know, because why do that? That's just boring. But I do have presentations, so. We decided to do this finance training in 3 sections, okay, over 4 weeks. So the idea of the original design was, Saul said, hey, I'm doing these sessions kind of at the community level. I'm going to invite people. I'm like, that's great because, you know, where I'm at in life is I need people to know how to speak this language, you know, and in the 3 sessions, I want to go from like, okay, what normally confronts us around money and capital with regard to business, and how do we kind of get to a point where our vision and our dreams and the actions we want to take can be backed up by the kind of planning and practices that make it solid. And that's the whole thing. So, first session is bank accounts to project plans, right? And I like to call that moving from how we see things as they are to moving toward the possibility of how they could actually be, right? 2 different things, right? Because we kind of always confronted with where things are at, but we might have a burning vision for how it could actually be, and actually getting there is a whole other thing. Yeah.
I was gonna say the phone. I want to turn it down. No, take the ring off.
I mean, I appreciate it, but it's like there's 5 of us. It's like it's okay.
Thank you.
My name's Hakeem Dyer, and I actually have a training program that I designed for corporate finance called the Renegade CFO. Right? Why Renegade? Well, kind of for the same reason we're talking about the Knights Templar. You know, I think there's a pact in the finance world where, you know, you get all this training, you're not supposed to tell anyone about it. You're supposed to, like when I started out as a banker, which I'll talk about, and the whole idea was to not be seen. All right, like, you know, don't show up in the press. They will fire you. Just don't talk to them. You don't just like, if something goes wrong, jump out the window. All right, like take the secrets to the grave. I mean, that's how bankers operated. But I said, you know, if you are a priest of the temple and you say, no, I think actually we should tell everyone what the message was, then you are technically a renegade, right? So that's why I put together this program called the Renegade CFO. I've been Chief Financial Officer for companies for a while now. And the whole idea is to have the opportunity for people to become what I call fluent in finance, you know. And that's being done now with Solve Wall Street, right? And I'm like, known Shaquille for, I don't know, my God, since 2016, since we moved into Baltimore, actually 2015. And he's always been up to something, and he's always actually doing things. Like so many people, they talk, they say, I don't have the money, I don't know how to do anything. He finds a way. He finds a way. And I'm like, I don't, so now he's got these arts district and buildings and people. I'm like, this guy's gonna do something. So if he says, I'm gonna bring some people together, I'm going to be there. Word about me, I'm a reformed banker, all right? So in 1987, I went into banking. That was after a career in the arts. I was, for about a decade, doing radio, broadcasting, and voiceover work, which I still do from time to time, and doing cartoon illustrations. And I was really sick of the U.S., so I left. I was living overseas. And I would sit around with a bunch of expats who would all be sitting there with their European friends. I was in France. And all the Europeans would be like, oh, if I could go to America someday, I would do this and I would do that. And I just got sick of listening to them talk about what they would do if they would go to America. I'm going to go to America and do some stuff. So. But I got to go to the heart of the beast. I want to know. I don't want to be, a creative who criticizes but doesn't actually know. So I'm going to take 5 years, and I'm going to go, and I'm going to learn stuff. So I came back, and the banks were looking to hire people who had language competencies to do banking, so they trained me, and I went in. And the 5-year plan didn't work out, because it's been like 37 years. I'm still doing this stuff, so that's my story. I currently have a business where I'm a fractional CFO, so companies will hire me when they're too small to have a chief financial officer, but they need the skills. They need to do a pitch deck, they need to talk to investors, they need to negotiate with venture capital funds, I'll do all that stuff. And I also do executive coaching. My main areas are real estate, technology, and media. I know about biotech, but you really don't want to hire me to do biotech, right? Real estate, I'm very good at. Technology, I'm extremely patient with. The media, I know stuff about. I have still work as an artist, a musician, do voiceover work, and I like to mess with the system. So my invitation to everybody that I talk to these days is, I need us to move out of our emotional state and put on what I call finance eyes, right? Like when they train you to be a financier, it's not that it's cold and calculating, but there are a set of skills, a particular set of skills that they have you put on that help you cut through stuff, right? So in spite of all of the craziness of the world, and you can see through to how to get things done, and that's what I'm out to impart. My original training was as a language teacher, when I got a degree. And when I came into finance, for me, it was just another language. It wasn't like some science, but it's like just a language, right? The grammar of that language is accounting, right? But not like public accounting or CPA accounting. It's called financial accounting. In the world of financial accounting, what we learn is how to tear stuff apart. If you go to the other side of the accounting world, what the accountants we're accustomed to talking to deal with is how to build things up. Like if you need financial statements, then brick by annoying little brick, they'll go and they'll build it up, and they'll have an accurate picture. I will get the same answer in a fraction of the time because I'm very good at tearing it apart. If I need to make an investment, you tear stuff apart, see how it works, right? So when you put on the eyes of a financial accountant, then you begin to become fluent in finance, which is built on accounting. If you talk finance, now you can actually have conversations about capital. And I have a whole series of talks that I do on capital and capitalism and what that really is. So that's who I am and what we're up to today. But today, we're just going to look at bank accounts and what I'm calling these finance eyes, right? Because when most people look at finance, this is how they feel about it, right? Oh wait, it's not on the screen. I'm doing all this stuff on the screen. So I was just saying, hey, that's how most people feel about it.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah, I'm like clicking and looking and thinking it's on the screen. I didn't even look. Yeah.
Sorry.
So it's fine. We're just getting, now you actually have to look at something. I'm going to put a bunch of stuff up here, right? But I want to get you from here into like, oh, let me look at this in a slightly different way. So let's clear the screen again. When people say, let's look at your cash you know, most people see this, right? This is something like that. If you go to your checkbook, if you go to your online banking, this is what you see, right? And even though we're a little bit far away from it, this is pretty much a turnoff for everybody. You know what I mean? It's like, if you look at this and say, let's do some planning, who's excited? Like, nobody. Why would you be?
That's
Right?
hilarious.
Huh?
I said, that's hilarious. Nobody said anything.
Ain't nobody. Everybody was doing.
We were playing into the
We was
ball.
so. We was looking at the balances and then looking at our balances. We was like, something's not adding up. I don't know.
Nah.
It's not the balance part we looking at. And I'm joking, bro. I'm joking. Oh, that's funny. See.
So that's just a bank statement,
Correct.
right? And I would submit it's kind of useless for planning purposes, right? And so most of the time, if you know getting a business going, getting a project going, and you start, this is where you start, right? Or this is what comes to mind, right? And I'm like, okay, well let's start by tearing it apart. Like I said, what we like to do is tear stuff apart so that we become familiar with the pieces of it, and then we mix it all up and move it all around so that we are in control of how the information gets presented and gets used, right? And that's the only thing I want to talk about today is like, how do you take this and turn it into something you can use? So I'd start by getting rid of all that. Just get rid of it, right? And start to break down, well, what is in your cash statement when you look at your bank account? Well, there's the account numbers there, right? So in this case, it's account ending in 2192, right? What else is there? Well, dates are there. Dates are important. This is obviously transactions for 1 month, right? The month of December 2023. This is important. You're going to see amounts, right? We know we need to have amounts. They usually put in stuff about debits and credits. Who knows what debits and credits are here? Like debits and credits, like what are they?
Debit side or use the credit side?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we're all up
Well,
on that
debit
stuff.
comes straight out immediately.
Yes and no. So a little bit of a rabbit hole. I think it's entirely unfair that they put the stuff on your bank statement, right? Because it's part of a world of accounting that most, right? Debits and credits are the system by which accountants keep track of keeping a balance sheet in balance. Wherever you have a number of debits, you have to have an equal amount in dollars of credits, all right?
Yeah, I had a brother tell me that you should always use credit. You don't do debit for his particular reason, but
That's where I go like, no, remember this is a language, right? So like, when I say a language, what I mean, so I was a language teacher, I taught French, right? And in the grammar of languages, everything has a meaning, right? If I say, this is the infinitive of the verb, you're like, well, what's that? Well, literally it's the infinite form of the verb. You can take this piece of this verb and make any tense of the verb, any mode of the verb, because it's infinite, right? So we call it infinitive. That's like mind-blowing, that your language is actually labeled, you know, in the functionality of the words you use. If I say this is the subject of the sentence, right? Well, what does that mean? Well, it means it's going to take action on other things. It's the topic, it's the thing, it's the one doing the work, you know? So it's kind of wild, you know, like you know, in many of the Bible and Quran stories, you know, Adam names the creatures, right? Okay, so we have things we call nouns. Well, nouns are nominative, they are names, you know? So literally we walk around naming things, making them subjects that take on infinitives of verbs. I mean, it's like all that happens just in the language we use. The same in accounting. Everything has a meaning. The debit has a meaning. Credit has a meaning. A word like equity has a meaning, but a word like equity is used in 1,000 different ways that make no sense, right? So when someone says debit or credit, it means that you don't necessarily even know what they're talking about, right? In this sense, it's an accounting language for the bank. It doesn't help the consumer, right? because technically it's backwards from what the consumer would do anyway. Like the bank's debit is your credit, and your credit is the bank's debit. I don't know why they put this in here. I would consider taking it out. There's usually some description, right, of, oh, we need to have the, I'm talking about this stuff, you gotta be able to see it. Right? So I'm saying I would take all that stuff away and I would just add these things, all right? This is, oh, I can't see the pointer doesn't show up on the screen, it's okay. The actual description of the entity, of the entry that's on those line items, right? And lastly, you've got a running balance. Running balances are good, all right? They're not bad. But if you look back at this, while explaining the function of these different columns is helpful, there's really only a few things that we actually need to make sense of, right? One, transaction date, like when did something happen? That's important to know. Two, how much was it? That's obviously very important. It can be positive or it can be negative, right? And what was it? So if I know what it was and when it happened, all right, and how much it was, I'm off to the races, right? And it'd be nice to have a trailing balance. We'll come back to that in a second. These things over here, I don't really need them. Not for making basic sense of things. So what I'm going to start to do is to change how these things look. Why? Because everything here, you can see there's an arrow on the left, everything here is unfortunately arranged from top to bottom, which just adds to the complexity, right? It's like by date from top to bottom. When you go in your online banking, right, you're just getting more confused every time you look at this thing, because one, it changes. Two, they have pending items. You don't ever know what your actual balance is. Three, it's in date order. It's not organized in a way your brain can get around and go like, oh, let alone turn it into a planning tool. You following me, tracking me? Okay. So first thing I'm going to do is start to make this look more like a finance person would, right? So we don't like little negatives on things. We like brackets. So you can see I've changed the negatives. I don't know if you can see that, but to like little brackety things, right? And those little parentheses to a finance person, that means money goes away, goes out, all right? It's a negative, right? And anything that's just plain without the little parentheses around it, that means the money's coming in, all right? And I'm going to take advantage of this sheet and change the middle column. So I'm going to change that column to something completely different. I'm going to say, you know what would help me is to make a meaningful category of these things, right? So here are my meaningful categories. I'm actually looking at each thing on a line item and saying, all right, well, these first two were credit card payments, then I paid a contractor, oh, then I had some money come in, then I paid a credit card again, and you know, that's what happened in the month of December, right? So I'm starting now to say, okay, let me begin to own this information in a way where it means something to me. Like I made up those categories. They don't have to be anything but what I can make sense of, right? The next thing I'm going to do is consolidate them, right? So I'm going to say, okay, if I look at those categories as I went through and labeled them, there's only like 9, all right? And that's what it is. It's just these things, all right? I've got credit card, contractor, income, subscription, right, blah, 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 right? And then I'm going to go a step further, saying, well, I've only got those few categories. Let me start to split them up into income, right? And I'm going to subtract from that income expenses. And we all know when you subtract expenses from income, you get a net, right? So I have a net. But then, borrowing from that same bank thinking, I'm going to say as a finance person, well, I probably started with some cash, all right? And if I start with some cash, and I add that net or subtract that net if it's negative, right, then I'm going to end up with a different ending cash balance. Tracking me?
Yeah.
All right, so beginning cash plus or minus the net gives me my ending cash, right? And that's already starting to feel a little bit different, all right? When I arrange what I had on the prior sheet in that format, it looks like that. Okay? That's a little small. Can you see it? No.
I see
I
words.
see, all right.
I listen.
Yeah, I need to get a little closer there, but
I listen.
okay.
I imagine what's there.
I see words. I see the words in the number. But to be honest with you, I'm a little nearsighted.
Okay.
But it's all good. But I can understand it, right?
Yeah,
I'm
me
following.
too.
Okay.
Me too.
I wonder if I just turn my computer around, is that an easier way to see it?
Okay.
Let's see. Let's see if I can do that. I don't want to knock over the tea.
Yeah, definitely. It's pretty bravely to have it there.
I know, right? So if I do that, Salt, then it's not going to show up on the screen here, is it? Oh, you know what I could do?
Just continue.
Well, let me see if I could just do it this way. I'll just duplicate. Because I think it's set to extend. No, it's set to duplicate. Okay. All right. We'll just keep doing it this way, all right? And then we can always just go back. Okay. All right, that's all right. Next time we'll get bigger, get closer to the screen. So if I then expand that out, it looks like this, all right? Where I've got my beginning cash, I've got income, all right? I've got all of my different things that went out, right? And then I've got the net, and then I've got the ending cash at the bottom, all right? And if I stand up here, yeah, we got to get you closer to the screen. I see y'all. How can we do this? Yeah, but so this was the beginning. This is the ending cash, right? I had this income come in was $58,000, $60,000, right? And here were all the different categories I just made up, all right? But it's like contractor subscription, service charge, rent, right? Insurance, utilities, boom. Then I threw in some loan payments, and then I got my total cash out, right? So my beginning balance, right, and my net gave me my ending balance. So these numbers match what was on that bank sheet exactly, all right? But they're organized in a different way. And the overall point here is that I have that kind of a thing, which you don't have to see exactly to know, is a lot cleaner than this, all right? So already starting with a finance way of looking at things, all right, I've cleaned it all up. I've taken a month of information here and consolidated it into one simple clean column with replicable categories, right? And the next thing I'm going to do is begin to consider turning that into a plan, all right? So if I've already taken all that data, right, and going to put it like into one tight column that I understand, then now I can replicate that, okay? Because you ever do like a sort on your bank account for like a year of transactions?
That's a lot.
Yeah, it could be like, well, if it's a low amount, it's probably like 1,000 transactions, right? If it's a large amount, it's 10,000 transactions, and every transfer and every ATM, and it's like.
You can do 10 to 20 a day.
Yeah,
more,
that's right.
After a year, that's ridiculous.
That's right. You know, so some of us have the sorry life where we actually say, "Oh, give me your bank stuff, I'll do it." You know, and we'll sit there, we'll go through a year or two or three of all those transactions and all categorize them. Where I'm going with this is not to do that. You really should hire an accountant to do that.
Right.
Finance guys, we really don't care about that. We'll hire accountants to do that too. What I want to do is set it up so that I don't have as much pain. All right, you can see the face there has less pain on it now. All right, less pain. All right, but I want to turn it around so now it becomes a planning tool. All right, because what I do historically can oftentimes indicate what I might be able to do going forward. And the nice thing about doing it going forward is I can imagine it in a financial projection without getting in trouble doing it before I do it, right? And that's why the planning is so important. So here I come back to this, which is what we left off with, right? Beginning cash, income minus expenses gives me my net. Add the beginning cash to the net, I get the ending cash, right?
Yes, sir.
These are planning techniques, by the way. They are not, going to give you financial statements. That's a different exercise, right? So what I'm doing with this is I'm saying, you know what, that's a great format. Let's consider that if I started with a period 1, all right, where I'm doing these things, all right, that if I'm going to have a period 2, the beginning cash balance of period 2 was the ending cash balance that I had from period 1, right? So it's wash, rinse, repeat. And I apologize for the next slides. You're not going to be able to see them because they're really small, but we'll figure out how to explain it. Okay.
You want us to sit in that area?
That's definitely an option. We could do that if our cameraman's fine.
Do we want to sit by the TV and look at?
If you guys need to.
I think it would help them see what we're about
Yeah, I
to do.
think you guys need to. Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
I think you guys need to. Sorry, we gotta have
I'm gonna stay here. I'll stay back here. Or I'll keep this console back here. And I'm happy to stand. Here we go.
Want me to help you up?
Oh! Yep, there we go. It was empty.
Oh gosh. Still
I'm glad there's only 5 of us. All right. That's good. I might have to move it.
yeah, I'm gonna take that out. Excuse me.
You said natural to you, right?
yeah. Natural, bro. No hand. It's all breath.
I got a clicker, so I can just stand.
Every time you do it, bro, I imagine you coming next to my ear, just. it's right in my ear. Oh, thanks, I needed that one.
Compliment to the chef.
Right, yeah. Compliment to the chef. Wow.
To the chef.
Okay, there you go. Let me see. Of the chef. We got a problem here.
Okay.
Oh, you can see this now. So, I'm gonna all that stuff. So, just to recap real quick, now that y'all can see it, okay? This is the nonsense we get confronted with, right? When we're working on financial stuff. Well, my eyes glaze over, and I've been doing it for 37 years, right? So I was thinking, get rid of all that, and let's just look at it piece by piece, and just consider this is important, right? Because it's dates. The whole thing is time and money.
Right.
Time and money, right? So that's the time, that's the money, that's what happened, right? This is great to have, but you don't necessarily need to have it for every single day. It's like a lot of numbers, right?
Right.
And what's hiding in this is that these things you don't need. All of this is arranged in date chronological order, which may or may not be helping you.
Right.
You know, as someone analyzing a plan, you need to be able to say, well, let me do what I call tell the story of the interaction of things. And you can't see things interacting here. You just see a bunch of numbers, right? So I say, look, get rid of that column, and let's just think about categorizing these things. So I had a credit card payment, a contractor payment, blah, 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 blah. Okay. When I do that, I realize there's actually not that much going on. All right, all that's going on are these things. And I deliberately made it small on the screen because it's so simple and so approachable. That was my idea. All right. This was the basic principle. Like, so I'm always going to, as a business person, as a hustler, as someone who needs to like make sure I don't run out of cash, I need to know this is always a positive number. Sometimes it won't be a positive number. That's okay if I've got enough cushion at the beginning and the end of the day, right? If I haven't got any cushion here and this goes negative, I'm in trouble, all right? If I got good cushion here and I end up with good cushion, then my next period is going to be okay too, right? So here I was like, okay, if that's the case, then if I summarize the numbers that I had before, that's what it looks like. Already that's simpler than staring at a sheet of numbers. I've taken a basket of 1 month and said, okay, that was the effect of it. All right, and then I take a step further and I say, like, well, what was my beginning cash and what was my ending cash? And in this case, it's this. All right, so I started with $23,000. These are the things that accumulated over that month, right? And that's what I ended up with. all right? But this is a lot easier to look at, and then I beautified it in accounting style, put some, you know, things on it and on it. Why do you do that? You do that, and there's actually a methodology for doing that among accountants, because you can tell when you have something that's being totaled, and you can tell when a line ends, right? So it actually is a quick way of training your eye to find data in a sheet of numbers, right? That's why accountants do it. It's not for no reason, right? It's because they also get tired of looking at sheets and sheets of numbers. The whole point here is that when we zoom back out, that format is a lot easier to look at than this one. Right? So one reason why we get stopped with planning is because this is what we get confronted with. But we don't know to make it look like that. Right? And the next step that we're stepping into is, if I have this, right, format, right, and I've already, once I have the template of the format in my mind, I start to look at everything differently. You know, I no longer look at just sheets of numbers and get overwhelmed, like, let me break this thing down. Now that's what I call finance eyes. It's like, okay, you can talk to me about all your stuff, but like, when does the money come in? When does it go out? How much is left when we're done? And by when? You know, that becomes the standard way of looking at things. The pivot comes when I say, okay, look, that's the format, that's the numbers. When I start to look at it over time, then I do this over and over and over again, and this are going to be different, right? But instead of looking at everything in one cascading waterfall of numbers, now I'm looking at it in line items, all right, over time. When I'm looking at it in line items over time, then these things start to talk to each other, all right? And they allow me to begin to make plans without having to go live the disaster first. I can like just model disasters and limits and sensitivity points and requests, right, to know when I need to, you know, ask for money, when I need to have earned something, when I need to cut an expense, right? And that's where this came in. That's when, like, you gotta get closer for this part, right? You're not gonna see it. So what I'm gonna do is call it a cash flow, right? I'm gonna call that same methodology cash flow. I'm gonna blow it up bigger, right? I'm gonna look at it over time, right? 12 months at a time. Why not? Because I shouldn't be looking at, to build wealth, you gotta look at things at least in 1 year increments. You know, not next month, next week. No, you're not getting any, you're treading water. It's got to be 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, all right? And if you've got a spreadsheet, you can do that, all right? You can actually plan out what it might look like, all right? And the brain is incredible. Once your brain, you can take the most absurd vision, all right? And once you write it down and look at it, your brain is designed to go to work on how could I actually do that? And all of a sudden now requests come into your mind that weren't there because you didn't have a plan, right? Periods, time. Now, simple categories. I changed them up a little bit to be a little bit more standard. So in this case, I'm going to break it into cash in and cash out. Cash in, for the sake of this example, is going to be sales or investments, all right? And I reiterate, this is not accounting, it's finance, right? So I'm just looking at any cash that comes in, right? Because sales is not investment, right? I would have to account for those differently in the world of true accounting, right? But in the world of cash, it's important to me know when I get the cash from the investor, right? And this is expenses done in a kind of a simple way. Cost of sales, because in many businesses, in order for me to sell something, I have to have made it or bought it or done something to produce it. Operating expenses, which I've subcategorized into selling, general, and administrative, right? I market, you know, I have to pay my rent, and then I have to pay the people who support my enterprise, right? And then I do the same math. You want us to wait for you? Okay. I mean, there's only 5 of us, we can wait. Okay.
Oh, no, I got plenty of patience.
Chief, you have no patience. We got patience. We got patience. Side note then, while she's taking care of things, is y'all use spreadsheet stuff?
I have in school. I follow it though.
You got like Google train you to do spreadsheets.
I'm listening.
Google, Excel, whatever. It's
Yeah, because it
critical
would look
skill.
like you turned all of that into a receipt. It looks like a receipt in that format. Like it's
In a
simple.
sense, it does. But this actually lives in the spreadsheet,
Mhm.
right? And here's the trick. You can keep, let's play a game, all right? Imagine one thing, just a dot, one dot in your head. Dot, one dot. There's a black dot on a white background, right? Just imagine that, okay? Now imagine 3 dots. Okay. All right. Now imagine 5 dots. Still with me? Imagine 10 dots, like 2 groups of 5. All right. Now 100 dots. Again, 100 dots. Can you see 100 dots? All right. How about 1,000,000 dots?
Oh,
Yeah.
reminds me of the snow on the TV.
Yeah.
It's just.
Yeah. All right. What if I told you with a spreadsheet you could keep track of 1,000,000 dots?
So, what I mean, you're unarmed if you don't have a spreadsheet.
You're totally unarmed. You're walking into battle with a target on your back. Everyone else has got their AK and AR and everything else. Yeah, basics. And it's not like you got to do like all the weird, crazy database, macro stuff. No, forget that. Just know how to make a summation and format. You're good. You can like run the world. I literally have run companies with this model. Literally. Like, I'm not even joking. There's a client I work with right now, I just introduced her to that. And, in her case, I said, okay, here's the cash we have. You're going through a tough cash moment. Here's the amount that's left on the bank line. Here's what has to happen in the next 3 weeks. We laid it out just like this. I said, okay, this business line has to bring in 70,000. We need to pull down 65,000 on your pocket. Or stuff doesn't work for the next payroll, which you got it right. So we can run the whole company as one sheet. Before we end up with a disaster, oh my God, it's the night before payroll, we don't know what to do, right? So we had one thing not work and the other did work, right? So we got the bank line, right? But we didn't get the sales. So now we have a whole conversation happening 2 weeks before payroll, right? Not the night of, right? Because we've got the tool, right? So in that, and all that spreadsheet does is add stuff up and subtract it, right? So yeah, all this stuff goes in the spreadsheet, and that's critical skill. So simple categories, 1 year, and when you've got a big blank empty spreadsheet, this is what it looks like. Okay. To me, that's a possibility, because I'm a finance guy. So a lot of people, that's like, I don't know what the hell that is. Please tell me, please fill this in. Help, I don't know, right? I want you to watch the space down here, right? Because the other thing that happens when we're making plans is you have to write it down. You got to take numbers and turn it into words, right? This is, are we all old enough to know what shorthand is? Shorthand? Okay, shorthand, right? Finance is a shorthand for what you're going to go do. Okay, I'll say that again. Finance is a shorthand for what you are going to go do. All right, you could put your whole. Oh, is he locked out? Someone's knocking.
Someone else.
Oh, okay. You can put your whole business on one sheet of paper, right? But if you don't take the extra step to like write out how to say that to people, then it becomes difficult to share because most people aren't going to look at your spreadsheet, and you probably don't want them to. Like some of this stays private. You might introduce people to a piece of what you're doing, but you know how it all fits together. Right? We were doing an exercise when you were out saying, all right, imagine 1 dot, imagine 5 dots, imagine 100 dots, imagine 1,000,000 dots. You can't imagine 1,000,000 dots, right? So it's the same. You can keep like, oh yeah, I gotta make that rent payment. Keep that in your head. I gotta make a car payment. But when it's like 60 different things, you cannot keep that in your head. All right. Good day, sir. How are you? Good. Welcome, welcome. We're in the middle of doing a cash flow worksheet. Happy to go back later, but we'll keep going for now. Welcome. Yeah, you can't keep 60 different things going, and they're all critical because they're all starting to affect each other. So you want to take the step of writing it down. That's what we're doing. So what I'm going to do here is go through a planning exercise, right, with a completely made-up company, completely made-up numbers, to show you how you begin to work with this, knowing that you're playing with it before you're actually, in the firefight, right? That's the whole purpose. So in this company, I'm going to say, I'm going to go sell some stuff, right? So I go and I sell some stuff, and this is how it starts to show up. And you notice right away the spreadsheet comes to life, right? Here I sold $500 of stuff. Then I think I'm gonna sell 1,000 and 5,000 and 10,000, and this is what I think my sales is gonna be month by month, right? Automatically, the spreadsheet picks it up. I started with 0, that means 0 in finance speak, and I ended with 500 because I just had money come in, right? That 500 becomes the opening balance for the next period, right? I add another 1,000, I end with 1,500, right? And so forth and so on. So it's the exact model that I showed you earlier, just in an actual spreadsheet. That's one assumption for my financial projection for 12 months, right? That this will be my sales. Okay, let's add to that. Let me say, well, if I'm gonna have these sales, then I have to have bought the things that I'm selling, okay? And down here, I'm writing the business plan, all right? So for everything I do up here, I've got a record of what I was thinking about at the time, right? And if you do this robustly enough, as I tell my students, do not try to write a business plan by sitting down with a pen and paper in front of your computer and go, oh, what am I gonna do for marketing? No, you're wasting your time. Do this first. It tells you what to write. And if you're out there raising capital, you're out there trying to get people involved in your venture or your project, do this first. This is your script. Investor comes up, yeah, I like what you do, I like your energy, man, I'm gonna put some money up, what do you need? I need X by this date for these purposes. Oh, that's much more persuasive than, I think maybe I'm like, no, this is the talk track, all right? So in this case, I spent $300 to make $500, so I changed the net. The net is now only 200. Now 200 becomes what I go forward with, all right? So already I'm in the modeling game. I can start to see the relationship between these two lines. I could do math on these, like, well, what percentage is this of that? Is it increasing? Is it decreasing? Am I getting a good deal? You know, all that. Just 2 lines. I'm starting to tell a story about how I'm generating this revenue, right? But I'm going to go a step further. I'm going to say, okay, now I'm going to add my selling expense, all right, which is I got to go market, I got to pay my internet advertising people, I got to do all that stuff. And then the total comes out down here, so 1,500, and I'm going to ramp it up to 3,000. Well, now what happened is my net is negative. So I am not making, at this sales rate, enough to cover these costs. But this is a spreadsheet. It's my crystal ball. I don't care yet. Actually, I want to dig the deepest hole I can on a cash balance, and I'll show you why in a second. Right? So now I'm running these big negatives, and they're getting bigger and bigger and bigger, right? I'm going to add more stuff. I said, well, now I'm going to add some office and warehouse space to my general expenses, right? In this prior bullet, I said, okay, I'm going to market the business, and I'm going to ramp up the marketing in period 7. You see how that's starting to sound like a business plan, but these are the numbers that are the shorthand for these words, okay? Now I've got bigger negatives, okay? Go a little step further, right? Now I add some admin cost, right? So I'm modeling the staffing that starts in period 6 and increases, right? And then I start to look at this very carefully, like how big and bad is that getting, right? I say, all right, if I'm going to do these things, then I should also expect an increase in my sales. Why? Because I'm marketing, and I've got people behind me, and they're supporting it. So I'm going to reflect the increase in sales in period 9. So that starts to ramp up higher, all right? And when that starts to ramp up higher, something important happens. Remember, I had my net cash flow, which was negative, 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 positive, and positive bigger. So I'm starting now to add back to my negative cash balance, right? What's happening? Well, from a business plan standpoint, I'm starting to become cash flow positive. Oh, investors love to hear that. They will ask you, by when will you be cash flow positive? And they either mean, by when will you have recouped all the cash that you put in, or on an operating period by period basis, by when will this thing start to kick out more money than we got to put into it, right? And the answer is period 11 in this model. Got it? Why is that important? That's important because until period 11, my cash is going down, down, down. The negatives are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. My trailing balances are getting bigger, negatives and bigger, negatives and bigger, negatives until here. All right, so starting here to recoup cash. Got it? So my biggest negative It's about $24,000. All right. So when someone says, well, how much money do you need to do this stuff? I'm going to come up to my investment and say, well, in period one, I would like to raise $25,000. And now, I got nothing but positive cash cushion, right? Because I knew what to ask for because I did the plan. Track me? And I've written a business plan.
So question,
Yeah.
so basically before you come up with the investment number, you have all of the, you feel everything else is already done, so that you already have an idea. I got you.
I identified all the needs.
Okay.
I identified all the needs before I made the ask. Someone says, what are you going to use the money for? I will literally tell them. I tell them what, by when. Now, can this change?
One more question.
Yeah, sure.
Where did you come up with the number 25,000?
I looked at how negative, go back, I looked at,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I looked at how negative I thought this was going to be.
Oh,
All right? And I said, and I need a little cushion on top of that.
Right. Gotcha.
So that's how I got the extra $1,000. All right, so I get about as low as about $1,000, which is probably cutting it way too close, right? I mean, there's other rules of thumb. Well, you might say, like, it depends on your business, right? Like if you have a staff and they're really dedicated, but you didn't make them owners and they don't have much upside, they just want the paycheck,
Right.
then you've got to put a couple of payrolls in your cushion, right? Or that's not fair to them, right? Because if you hit the wall and you had to lay them off, you can't just walk in at the beginning of the day and say, y'all get out, we're done. It's like, no, you need to have enough, as a business owner, enough cushion to say, look, we have some hard times, I might have to let a couple of you go in a month or two, you know? Oh, okay, you're watching this cash, you're negotiating like hell on the side, and if it comes to that, well, at least you gave them, you know, notice, and you had the cushion to do it, right? So you start to think, and you start to see things in this shorthand that are not, it's like the million dots, you know, you can't keep all that in your head and be human, but if it's on a sheet, you can literally look at what's happening vertically, or you can look at what is happening on a time scale, right, on a trend basis, and say, well, now these line items are all interacting with each other. Why did I hire these people? Well, because I knew I'd need them to pack more stuff because I upped my marketing expense. All right, I expect to sell more, right? So if by period 9 and 10 I'm not selling more, but I'm still hiring you, why did I hire you? You know, it's like, but I don't have to keep it in my head. It's right here, right?
Right.
Well, what about the ratio of my cost of goods sold to my my sales? Well, maybe I can get a better deal. You know, what about that rent? Well, maybe I don't need that warehouse. You know, maybe I bring it over. You know, you begin to see how you can tell the story of your business by moving these numbers around before you ever get to that point. Right? Now, where an accountant comes in is, because this is totally a finance tool, accountants hate this stuff. Accountants hate this because it doesn't capture everything that's actually going on from an accounting standpoint. I give that to them, right? It captures just this is what I call combat cash flow. It's like this is the house-to-house fight right here, right? Because let's face it, you run out of cash, you're not doing anything. Right? You're not doing anything, right? If you didn't have exactly the right depreciation on a certain class of assets, okay, you know what? That's nice, and that's important for tax purposes, but it's not going to make or break my business this week. Right? Running out of cash will do that. Right, so your finance guy is saying to the business people, get this straight, the rest falls in place, right? You can always come back to this. And what I do when I'm working with clients, with some clients, is I can actually reconcile these cash balances to the bank, right? Remember I started showing you the bank statement, right? And how the bank statement could match the financial cash flow planning statement, right? Well, you can do that in real life, right? You can say, well, what did I actually spend? Go back, change these, have part of the sheet be the historical, reconcile to the penny, right, and then replan what goes forward. So this becomes a living tool. You do it every week, all right? You say, well, you know, we didn't get that thing, now I got to change that thing, and you look forward and redo the whole thing, and it all ripples through. And it tells you, oh yeah, now I'm going to hit the wall in 3 weeks. These don't even have to be months. It could be weeks. It could be days. I don't recommend that, but weeks at least, you know? So now, it's Friday, you wrap up, you go have some fun, you come back, Sunday evening, 8 o'clock is my time, I plan the week, right? I look at the cash flow, I'm like, well, what are we doing this week? Oh, damn, yeah, I gotta get on my phone on Monday morning, make some calls, make some stuff happen by Friday, you because it's all clear in the cash flow. Okay? All right. So, from here then, you plan your work, all right, and work your plan. And if you will, none of what I'm sharing with you is rocket science, and none of it is stuff I invented, right? But you should be happy about it. This is SBA Form 1100. Okay? It's the same thing that we just talked about, all right? It just looks awful. It's like yuck. I mean, who wants to fill that? But this is where I learned it, all right? In one of my iterations as a lender, I became an SBA certified lender. We used to hand these things out in paper form. This is the SBA's electronic form of it. But you see, they have cash on hand, beginning of the month, right? Cash position, end of the month, right? Cash that comes in, right? Cash that goes out, and they've gone to the effort of helping people, like say, cash sales, collections, loan. We've done a more accounting version of it, right? But I'm just saying, look, I did not invent this, right? This is a thing that's out there that they don't share with people anymore, but that it works, all right? I did a simplified version. It looks like this, and I actually printed this out, and I have a bunch of them if you want to take them with you. You just do this by hand, all right? And if you need a spreadsheet, I'm happy to do a spreadsheet, all right? That has the same stuff in it. I do an exercise like this with the folks at the MICA Venture Capital competition every year. And we have all the artists who have business plans go through and they do a cash flow, you know. And what's great is this year I told them, look, you know, there was Neanderthal man, right? And there was Homo erectus before Neanderthal man, right? And there was, you know, Homo africanus. There's a bunch, and a number of the humanoid species coexisted, right? Somehow, there's only one race of humans left, called Homo sapiens. Right? like we axed the other humanoids, all right? That's why the whole conversation about race is actually spurious. It's like, no, there's actually only one race of human, according to the scientists. It's Homo sapien, right? It's not black, white, that's just breeding, right? But that's what we call race, that's what we fight about. Okay, fine, whatever. The fact is, Homo sapiens do something that the other humanoids did not do. There's a great book by this Israeli guy called Sapiens. Go read that book, right? It says, look, what we do that others didn't is abstract thinking. We're really good at it. Like, we will think up stuff and live it like it's real. And lions and tigers and bears don't do that. Homo sapiens, Neanderthal didn't do that. Homo sapiens do that. What do I mean? Well, what I mean is, we have a thing we call law, right? Lawyers, any lawyers? All right. Law, if you go to law school, they'll tell you the law does not exist. You made it up. Okay. All right. Politics does not exist. You know, based on the law, we made that up too. Right? Money, a finance person will tell you, does not exist. It's a concept, right, that we made up. All right. We could make up other stuff, and we have multiple systems of these things, right? But the reality is, Homo sapiens live this stuff like it's real. You go out here right now and tell someone money's not real, and there is no law. Look at you like, you kidding? You know, we will take action based on what we believe is real. Okay. That makes creators very dangerous people, if they knew it. You know, and you harm a creator with finance, it could be game over, right? Because we're going to question stuff in ways that they don't like it to be questioned. You know, I mean, they took out Jimi Hendrix for a reason. You know, guy stood on stage, he plays his guitar like a machine gun as a war protest, and everyone's listening. It's like, okay, we're going to end that now. Oh, he had an overdose. That's crap. He did not. I'm just saying, not a conspiracy theorist. I'm just saying this is where you play with fire, right? Which is my invitation at the beginning. So, yeah. This stuff, finance, is a way to take your vision and bring it into actual reality, bring it into action, all right? That's why some of this you share, some of it you don't share. Some of it you just share talk track or pieces of it. As long as you know you can come back to an actual plan, right? And people who are smart investors, they know. You know, he's got it. Okay, fine. All right, so I want you to think. first consider, and this is a lot of words, we don't have to sit and go through it all, but you want to start to think, if you're planning a project or business or an event, and you can use the same methodology for everything. You know, how much am I going to bring in? What's the cash in going to be? I don't care where it comes from. Grants, sales, whatever, you know. What's it gonna cost for me to get there, you know? What kinds of deals and partnerships and arrangements, because, you know, you call a company for a reason, right? It's not called a solo, it's called a company. It's like you're supposed to do it with people, right? And your role as a leader, as an entrepreneur, is to do stuff with people so that you don't do it all, right? Because just holding the space for other people's leadership is a job. That's a thing, right? What is your core gross profit going to be? Do not do something where you have to spend more to make it than you will ever earn in getting it. That's called a negative gross profit, and it's fundamentally not commercial. Don't do that, okay? Make sure whatever you're doing, you're going to make more than you're going to spend at least before you get to the overhead stuff, okay? What will grow with sales has costs, right? Because sometimes you're in a business where the more you do, the more it costs. And there are these miraculous businesses where the more you do, the cost stays the same, right? Like if you're in an internet business, it's very strange. You know, if you're in an internet business, you can do thousands more dollars and have the same infrastructure. It's kind of like, so what that means is, from a commercial standpoint, your margin just gets fatter and fatter. It's kind of wild, right? Some will be fixed overhead, and some will be variable costs, right? Are there externalities, right? Anyone in the fashion business knows it's a seasonal business, right? Retail is largely a seasonal business, right? Depending on the kind of retail you're in. Sometimes regulation will create your industry or destroy your industry, you know? Like the trucking business used to be heavily regulated. People made regular margins, then they deregulated, and basically that went away. It became a very risky business. Yep. You want to talk about how much you're going to take out. Because if you never get paid from your venture, that's also a problem, right? Like, you cannot continue to do things you can't live off of. If you can live off of what you do, you keep doing it, right? Then also consider how much of others people's money will you need, right? This is a big stopping point for our community, either because people don't want to invest in us, and that's just the reality, or because we don't know how to talk to them about doing it, all right? So we got to at least take down one of those challenges, not try to pretend that both don't exist, right? And what are going to be the terms, all right? So you put money into my business, what do you want? What's the deal, all right? Is it like you going to own a piece of it, or are you just going to lend me the money, I pay you back? I pay you back based on what? Interest, or on earnings, or on, like, how does it work, you know? And then how much can I earn independently and by when, right? So a lot of us on the precipice of doing a business or a project are thinking, well, I'm really going to do this, I got to quit this job, or I got to cut my hours, right? So you got to look at that in real world terms, right? I've seen people go both ways on this, right? There was an entrepreneur I was working with years and years ago, who made every effort to start his business, it wasn't quite going. And I said that his name was Neil. I said, Neil, and I was an investor in this business at the time. I said, Neil, I need you to leave your job. Go have a conversation with your wife, and you guys talk about you leaving your job, a nice consulting job. Because it's not real for you until you're in it full time. And he was so scared. But he took the coaching and he did it. The business of coffee. You know, and he and his wife got together. She had a great job too, and they just made it work, right? I've also seen people, I gotta quit this stupid job and I'm gonna do my thing, and 2 months later they're looking for another job. Why? Because they weren't ready, right? So it goes both ways. But you got to figure out how you're actually going to support your vision, right? Okay, use the model. The basic cash flow model, like I said, exists in a couple different ways. You can have it in paper, you can have it electronically, but the best way is with the spreadsheet, because you can do all the permutations you want. What if I grow faster? What if I grow slower? What if I spend more? What if I don't? Keep in mind, it's different than a budget. All right. If you talk to accountants about a budget, this is what the accountants are going to do. They're You're gonna say, well, let's look up the past 6 months, the past 12 months. What did you spend on this? What did you spend on that? Let's budget that you spend this and that going forward based on the past, right? That's great. You should do that. You should know what it's likely, whether it's your household, whether it's your project, you should know what it's likely that you're gonna spend, and you should incorporate that in your financial projections. But why accountants hate finance guys is we really don't care. You know, we really care about what's possible, okay? And what's possible means that the future is not indicated by the past. It's informed by it, that's great, but if you only ever project your future based on the past, you're not gonna ever grow anything, all right? You gotta actually be in a place where you can ask yourself unreasonable questions and put unreasonable demands on yourself, right? If you think about it that way, it's like, okay, now who do I have to be unreasonable with the world, right? Like, I need to get enough sleep, I need to like dress differently, I need to talk differently, I need to learn some new skills, right? So that I can make ridiculous demands with a straight face, right? And it will upset your accountant, but that's too bad. You know, you think Elon Musk has happy accountants? No, he doesn't. They hate it, right? Not a static approach, all right? Like I'm saying, you're doing now financial modeling. It's not budgeting, all right? You should do budgets, but this is different, right? And all the what ifs become important. What if I raise more money? What if I raise less money? What if I hit the wall? You know, and that's what that spreadsheet is for. You can do that with pen and paper. It's just a lot harder, and you need a big, thick eraser. So getting it down on a spreadsheet is a little like click, click, click. Oh, what if I did this? Oh, save this version. Let's do a new one. You know about the shorthand, and then I want you to consider using some other tools. All right. Now, you saw what I did with the bank statement on the first slide. All right. Printed it out. Scaled it. You can link your QuickBooks, all right, so that it automatically grabs and categorizes that information, and your accountant will be happy, all right? So that at some point, if you're doing an actual going concern, do that, all right? The messiest QuickBooks that's connected to a bank account is better than no QuickBooks at all. No, in the old days, we used to bring, you know, a client would bring a shoebox to their accountant, and the shoebox had all the receipts in it, and okay, you can automate that, and with just that, we can always go back and clean stuff up and make it pretty, all right? File some stuff, you know. So getting that basic stuff done is really important, and it's not expensive these days. And everyone's bank will talk to QuickBooks, right? Use your finance eyes. Remember, finance eyes, we're looking at data to see the structure of it, all right? And we're using that structure to pivot around. And where we saw a bunch of historical stuff, now we say, yeah, but what if going forward? All right, that's what finance people do. All right, we're interested in creating a vision, tearing apart things, rebuilding it, and then saying, okay, we're comfortable that this is feasible. All right, we're not accountants. We're not saying like, yeah, we put the picture together and that's it, we're done. No, it's just the beginning for us, right? And then replan and course correct frequently. All right, so like just because you did it once doesn't mean it's not like every week. Updating and replanning, updating and replanning. Okay. That's pretty much it. That's all I got. I have homework for people, but it depends on what you really want to do.
I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
So what are you presenting to the bank? Are you presenting that spreadsheet to the bank for well, not even to the bank, to the investors? Which one of these?
It depends on your conversation with them. All right, so there's no formula. It's the other thing that no one ever tells anyone. It's like, there's no way it's supposed to be done, all right? A smart way to go about it is to work with investors in ways where you know you can be reliable, okay? Mm-hmm. I like forms like this because I can hold myself to account in front of an investor. I can show them a plan, say this is what I want to do, this is where your money goes, all right? And then I can come back in 6 months and say, okay, this was the plan, right? Here's what actually happened, here's what we're gonna do next, right? It's the same sheet of paper, right? It's got the numbers updated on it, you know, but I created a framework for the relationship, right? I just point them back to the next column, right? And they like that, because I can count on this guy, he's gonna be clear, and the structure of how I interact will be clear. Mm-hmm. You're gonna also then turn all your line items, right, into some kind of a contract some kind of a quote, some kind of a something. At some point, all this stuff that you're spitballing, the spreadsheet, it turns into something real, right? Like I have agreements with people who are now my contractors, you know. I have signed a lease on that warehouse space. I have purchase orders in with the vendors who are selling me the product that I'm going to resell, right? So that when you and your investor are looking at those line items, everything behind those line items is real.
Mm-hmm.
Like on day one, it's total fiction,
Right.
right? And between day 1 and day 50, you've course corrected, readjusted, and you've documented so that everything is backed with something that's really happened,
That's what.
you know? And when you're having that kind of a conversation with the investment community, you will present as reliable, right? And that's, they don't ever invest in a business, they always invest in people,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And that can happen. You'd be surprised how many people walking around Baltimore and they would love to invest in something, you know? And it's gonna be the barber shop, you know? It's like, I got some money out of it. Okay, but you're in the realm of okay? So, you're in the realm of trust, right? When you're in the realm of trust, then the thing that's important is accountability. You know what I mean when I say accountability?
Right. You basically it's there's well, this is what I take from it. There is almost like a responsibility. There's a governed responsibility. So there's someone that is in order to be accountable, someone has to hold you to a governed responsibility. I'll say that.
Yeah, it's like accountability means that you're always going to honor your word, okay? And all that I just gave you is just an elaborate way to make a promise and hold your word, okay? Honoring your word doesn't mean that you necessarily did what you said you were going to do. Well, why? Well, because when you started, you didn't know. And then you went out and you made all those arrangements and you did all those things. Now you've got a lot more information. You're going to make a better choice.
Mm-hmm.
And it might look really different from where you started. But how you honor the word you gave is by saying, look, what I told you was this. Here's what I've learned, and this is where I am now recommitting. Right? That honors that you had given a word. Right? Not honoring your word looks like you don't even talk about that. In fact, don't even call that guy. That's not honoring your word. That's
Right.
like a lack of integrity. Integrity not in the sense of morality, but in the sense of
Scamming.
no, it's more like engineering. Like if I say this bridge has structural integrity, right? What do I mean? I mean, like it's not gonna fall down if I run 10 trucks on it,
Right.
right? It has integrity in that sense, right? If it lacks structural integrity, you will not want to drive your truck across it, right?
Right.
Because the metal's gonna buckle, it's gonna fall down. So you want to give a word like a bridge that has structural integrity,
I got you.
right? So it's not about, I'm a good guy, I'm a bad guy, or whatever. It's about, did I do what I said I was going to do when I said I was going to do it? And if I didn't, why? And were you in communication about that? One quick way to not be in integrity is to don't talk to people. Get an ego, and then decide you're not going to talk to people when things go bad. You want to show up as someone exercise integrity. Things go bad, you get on the phone, you call your investor and say, look, you need to know this just happened. Really? Oh my God. It's like, yeah, and here's what we're doing about it, and here's where I need your help. That's going to be a much better conversation than not telling them, 3 months later, like, well, I never heard from you. What happened? Oh man, no, that's no integrity. All right. So literally, you call them, say, this is what happened. I got a problem. I could help. It would help if you did X, Y, and Z. But here's what we're already doing. Let me refer back to the plan I showed you. Here's where we are. It's like it's a war map, and you're moving the battleships across the sea. It's like that. That's a high integrity operation.
High integrity, I love that.
Got one
High
more question
integrity
for you.
operation.
So based on your experience as a banker, like first time investment strategies when you're like investing in somebody that doesn't have a record, a history, like when you're sitting, I know the paperwork and the spreadsheets and the conversation, but what is like, I know you say you invest in people, but is it the presence, what exactly like draws you, like I'm invested in that person? professionalism, the presentation. I guess that's the question. Is it more so the presentation, the show, or is it the actual the content? Is it the and you're investing in a person? Is it more so the show or the content that's most that is it just as an experienced banker?
I'm going to answer your question, and I want to add some color around
Okay.
the question because it's a good question. It's never the presentation. It's never the numbers. You know, it's like I'm going to look you in the eye. I'm going to assess your soul. I'm going to decide this is someone I can go to bat for. This is someone who, you know, and going to bat for, if I'm an investor, it might mean I can explain to my wife what I did with the money.
Right.
Or if I'm an institutional person, like I'm a bank, you know, then I got to go to committee. I got to defend you.
Right.
You know.
So yeah, it's an
It's
integrity.
it's like investors want to work with people who are authentic, right? And every human being can sense if someone is full of shit. That simple.
Right.
Now, we don't acknowledge that, and we talk our way around it, you know?
Right.
We pretend like, you know, my colorful business plan is the reason why you're going to invest in me. No.
Right.
That's not it. So, you want to get good at being authentic, all right? You want to get good. When I say authentic, I mean you are a space where there's no crap, all right? Like, when you say you're going to do it, people feel and know. This is what makes con artists so dangerous, right? So con artists, yeah, they figured this out. All right, a good con man, they'll tell you, and you're like, yeah, I believed him. Yeah, that's the problem, because he knew how to get into that human flow thing, that it had to come across like real, right? You only have to look at the results to know if he's real. You know, like, well, where did you work, and what did you do? And it gets clear real fast. But that's when they're next in a con. Next thing they do is get nasty and threaten you. Now you definitely know you're in a con, right? So investors know this. They've been conned. So, you know, just do your thing. You know, like the guy Neil I was talking about, right? I knew I didn't have him. He was a good guy. He wasn't trying to con me, but I didn't have him. So I put his ass on the line. All right? And I was running a small venture fund. I created a small venture fund in Boston back in those days. And I had to go find entrepreneurs to invest in. He was one of the first. He was running a really cool little business. If I'm being recorded, I won't say what it was, but it was a cool little business. I had to go defend him, right? And it wasn't moving. He would make all these promises, it wasn't moving. Nice guy, you know. And I realized, I get it. He's not committed. He's got a back door. He's got his day job. You know, I'm funding his side hustle. Side hustle.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
he couldn't see it. I could see
So
it.
you saw it in him before he saw
Absolutely,
it himself. That's
right?
interesting.
Because this world of business is not about all the crap we talk about. That's not what makes it. It's still like people,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So be real, you know? And so he thought he was being real, like he really did care about his venture, but until he actually put his ass on the line, nothing. And the minute he did that, the business took off. Like, yep, there it is, you know? Because now he burned the boats, right? So he came with a completely different energy about getting stuff done, and he did it, you know? And I've seen that over and over and over again. So then you just need to be real. You don't have to be God's gift to business.
Right.
Like if you're thinking about a business, then just say that. I'm not doing this yet. I still got my day job. I'm thinking about it. Okay. But just know that's going to be a different story than when you're actually doing it.
Right.
You know, and like you don't know where dinner's coming from. You know, it's like you're going to come across differently to people, right? Now I'm in. Okay. By the way, can we go to dinner? Can you pay? Like, you know, okay, fine. You know.
It's a real thing.
So yeah, you just want to be authentic. You know. Now, if you're authentic and you don't know your ass from your elbow, you still got to get funded, right?
Right.
So that's where this stuff comes in, right? So if you're authentic, right, and you have a viable business opportunity, it's not something stupid, right? It's something that you actually thought through and you got some early. Now, the other color I wanted to add around that is skin in the game and who you're talking to, right? So what I mean skin in the game is no one's going to invest if they're taking all the risk.
Right, that's why I was just about to ask you. If you start that off with zero in the in your the cash, the initial whatever the top one
Which
is,
is where most of us start.
you're not gonna. But if you actually come off that authentic, have you ever invested in somebody who came with a spreadsheet with zero at the top? And they
Personally, I have.
Oh, you have?
I have, yes.
Oh, wow. Oh yeah, yeah, okay.
But,
Because you saw it in
Well,
the
no,
banker.
because I was going to take a role. They didn't have it, and I was like, I like that, I think you're right, let's do this. Meaning, now, we at least partners.
Right.
You know, where that goes to a difficult side is when an investor says, let's do this, and you actually work for them. You know,
That's
they
a-
cut a deal where like, yeah, you didn't put anything in, so that's fine, we are gonna do it, and you never actually get the piece that you built.
Right.
Alright, so that's a trap, don't do that. Alright, so skin in the game means you found a way to do some of it anyway.
Right.
Right, so like look at technology. That's a game where if you don't have a working prototype, you don't have a working, mock-up, you don't have something that can demonstrate how it would work, no one's going to talk to you, right? So getting that first viable, the minimum viable product, MVP, is hard, right?
Yeah.
But it's cheaper than trying to build the real thing, right? So someone who says, oh, I'm going to do this internet thing, okay, great. They'll get on Figma, and they'll design all the pages, and they'll make it look, so they'll show the functionality, do a slide deck, and demonstrate what it looked like, animate some stuff. Okay, it took their time and their sweat and their brain power.
Right.
There's some skin in the game,
Right.
Next level, you reach in your pocket, you put some of your money in, right? You talk to mom and dad, uncle, and dude on the street, whatever it is, you friends and family. That's called friends and family money. Put some of their stuff in, the skin in the game. So by the time you get to an investor, you got something to show,
Yeah.
right? You got a little bit of money that went in,
Yeah.
and you can talk about it,
I got you.
And this is a challenge for black communities because, look, I work with a lot of non-black people, we'll call them that. And it's like, oh yeah, well, we only put in $200,000. We only put in $400,000. We only put in $100,000. Oh, wow. That's, yeah, only, because they really need 10, versus 10, that's not a lot of money, right? Step into my community, it's like completely different conversation, right? Positive, we still create stuff. We create stuff that, people want to steal. It's like, okay, wait a minute, there's value there. I work with a tech company, all right, that company, that's a bad example. They actually had money going in. But where I was going is that whether you are an artist who paints or a technologist who invents, all right, you can probably get an appraisal on your work. And as a creative, it's like printing money, okay? It's like, okay, I didn't put cash in, but I made this thing, and I have 100 man hours in this, and what does the world think it's worth? Well, what are the revenues that you can get? This is where finance guys become important. I think I could do $1 million in sales. Okay, well, let's call this worth $1 million. Wow. Well, you just made that up, and now it's worth $1 million a year. That happens. Why? Well, because I have a reasonable projection that says I can earn this revenue by doing this thing. So maybe it's not worth $1 million, maybe it's worth 700,000, but like you started with nothing. So you get into these accelerators and incubators and learn how to do that with these tools, right? You walk out with an enterprise value that, what? Yeah, that's possible.
Here's a question from that. So all right, so once you pass the family investments, right, and you get some skin in the game, what's the science of finding out what's the science of getting to investors outside of banks, of finding like those who have the capital to invest?
There's going to be 2 or 3 different flavors, right? Depending on the scale and depending on the stage of business in the industry. So investment capital kind of gets parsed out in those chunks. There's like people who are seed stage, early stage, growth stage. Okay? Series A is like a whole nomenclature for the stage of business you are.
Okay.
Right? The other dimension then is going to be how big you are. And the other dimension is what industry you're in. Right?
Okay.
So if you were to say, hey, I'm a seed stage technology company. We've had $100,000 of family investment, and we're now looking to raise our first institutional seed round. That's what all that gobbledygook would sound like. Okay, great. Now, what kind of technology? Oh, we're in, prop tech, fintech, we're in whatever kind of tech. Great. Now, there's a category of people in the world. They could be family offices, they could be institutional, they could be just dudes on the street. Right? We're interested in a technology company at that stage of growth, with that much money, that's running a business like that. Right? And you just need to get out and talk to people and do LinkedIn posts and start to meet,
So scout for it.
constantly. Never ends. If you're CEO of a company, all you are is a chief fundraiser. It never stops. It never stops, right? So you're always pitching, always pitching, always pitching. Not formally. Sometimes formally. Sometimes you go to angel investment groups and you pitch, but you're
Angel.
an angel investor. So an angel investor is an individual, probably accredited investor, someone who has, over 250 in personal income, is knowledgeable about investments and is at risk on their own recognizance, right? There's someone who can put their money in without having to be subject to regulations. And they usually have to attest to you that they are an accredited investor, right? And so those people become angel investors, right? An angel investor is literally someone who acts like an angel, right?
Like Ozark.
Huh?
Like Ozark.
Like who?
Did you see Ozark?
Ozark, yeah, that's
I don't watch a lot of TV, you can probably tell, but okay.
Yeah, just like Ozark, yeah.
Angel, he was an angel investor, and he went around. But again, like you said you always have to find out if they're actually good intended.
Oh, is that the show where the guy's a money laundering guy?
Yes.
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 Yeah, I heard about that show.
But he bought the business. He went looking for businesses to buy to launder the money. That he
yeah.
had.
Yeah, there's this thing we call due diligence. Like, you need to actually know who you're working with in the world. And that's a big deal. All right, that's a big deal. And since 9/11, it's been an even bigger deal. So yeah.
In your experience, where's the greatest concentration of these type of investments happening?
New York and California.
New York and California. All right.
But you go to New York and say, "Oh, I'm gonna meet investors." It's like
Right, California.
You have to know. You got to find out where things are happening, right? So, for example, here in Baltimore, you guys know Corey Bailey?
Not by
Corey
name.
runs something called Equitech, all right? And Equitech, they were instrumental in having Baltimore being designated as a federal technology hub. We're all figuring out what that means. But the idea that Baltimore becomes the tip of the spear for equitable capital investments in technologies, all he stands for.
Oh,
So
wow.
every Tuesday night, Corey has a gathering called Equitech Tuesday, where people show up. And you'll see investors, you'll see technology companies,
Oh,
you'll
wow.
see black, brown, everybody shows up.
Right now?
Yeah, right now. You should come out. Come out to Equitech Tuesday. Join Equitech.
Equitech?
Equitech.
Yep.
Project Core still going on right now?
Huh?
Project Core still going on right now?
I don't know.
Project Core, and they got another one right now. It's Project Core, and what is that other one? I think Project Core is the big one that's been going on right now, the development project.
Yeah.
Yeah, Project Core.
Actually, House of Salt could be a clearinghouse for a lot of these things. Just
Oh,
tell people. It doesn't cost anything to walk in there and just start to meet people. But that's how it's done. If I were going to beat myself up about anything I have not done well in my career, it's that.
What's that?
Go out and meet people.
Uh,
It's probably why I'm here this morning. I'm like, I gotta get out and meet people because there's a lot of cool people out here, and I don't, it's like.
So based on your time, how have you streamlined how you filter meeting people? Are you doing
Dude, it's like, I am 63 years old and I am learning.
Wow.
Okay. It's like most of my career I have been behind a computer or on an airplane in the back office.
Okay.
That's why I'm sharing this stuff.
Yeah,
but
but
they
you
don't share. But I've not been like, yeah, call me, I'm out here.
But you here, so you
Yeah, I'm
doing
here,
it. You're
yeah.
doing it. You're meeting people and you're
Well,
networking.
I also feel like, one, I'm not moving anywhere else in my life, so Baltimore's my home.
Okay.
And I have a vision that I put $1 billion into new companies in the city, with 100 different entrepreneurs, right? That's my personal goal. So I bought a house in West Baltimore, I want to fix it up, and this is where we're going to stay, all right? And this place looks so much to me like Boston did before the tech boom there. It's like second tier city, post-industrial, good geolocation, and ignored. Like perfect, that's great. Baltimore, you can still get a mooring for your boat. And I'm like, that's insane. This is like the only city on the East Coast you can do that. So y'all need to buy boats, all right? So what do we need to do? Talk about your brain being unreasonable. What do we need to do to all have boats? It's like, let's think like that.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And there is actually a black boat club I found because I started saying crap like this. Things show up. There's a black boating club. It's actually historic in Baltimore Harbor. I'm like, I had no idea.
Wow.
I had no idea.
I got you.
Right? And you go show up with the boats. I'm like,
Makes sense.
who knew? And it's a whole, Baltimore Magazine did a whole thing on the history of black mariners in Baltimore, like through Fells Point. It's like a whole history. And I'm like, I didn't know. Like we were volunteering for the Marine, that wasn't Merchant Marine then, it was basically what they call them. Not pirates, it was like the privateers. It's like a lot of them were black, going to raid British ships. I'm like, from Baltimore. I'm like, that is really very cool. That's like we were like professional pirates. We could be freed men and like earn money and
Professional
Brits.
pirates.
Moors.
Well, this is long past the Moors, but there's a little bit of Moorish, in it too.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, it's like, it just shapes who you choose to be when you're at the negotiating table.
Yeah, I see.
Knowing that I'm from the city where we had the black pirates. Okay, yeah, those guys.
Just takes it.
Oh, those guys. Yeah.
Those guys.
I'm from the
Yo,
city. We had the black pirates. Yeah.
But no, it's like I'm learning how to get out and meet people, right? And I'm learning I have to be responsible for my public image, right?
Right.
And the way I got trained, my formative experience as a banker was exactly the opposite. Bankers don't want to be seen. You want to stay in the background, hush room, close the door, and it was great. I learned a lot. I saw a lot of crazy stuff, and I'm like, I got to share this, and I need to get out. So I am learning. I don't have any. You probably have better tips from me.
You're here. So that's the thing about it. And you're not from here, so you've come into the city, and you come and you've done it with your networking, and you got us. Yeah, we're excited. So we go. Yeah.
Stay excited.
Yeah, I am, because even with those spreadsheets, I'm looking to get some of those spreadsheets.
Yeah. You have a Google account?
No.
Can you still sign up for a Google account free?
Probably, yeah, I just kind of like,
Do you have any Apple products?
Nah, I have laptops, but they don't work.
Okay.
So
What
yeah,
kind of laptop?
MacBooks.
A MacBook. Okay. Yeah, that's an Apple product.
Yeah,
So
just don't
they
work.
have. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Because they have Apple has a product. What's it called? Sheets or something like that?
I never used
I'm
this
the
stuff.
Android man.
You say
Android.
They do have sheets though.
they do
They
have
have some kind of a-
Sheets is in Google's.
Oh, that's the Sheets is Google. But
Yeah, yeah.
I got some. My
Is
What's
it?
called?
It is Sheets though. Numbers. No.
No,
X-Pill.
probably not.
Let me see. I know because I
It's
believe.
like on all the devices.
But I
No,
like-
no.
I like-
This-
see,
yeah,
I-
this is
I see
Google
what you're saying,
Sheets.
and I'm gonna
Sheets was
use
on
that.
Google.
Yeah, it's
I like
Google
to do it
Sheets.
by hand.
Yeah, we got numbers on
That's-
apples.
I think when I write something, like if I have to write it, like I gotta write tomorrow, my whole day is writing. So I have to. So I have clients who do mergers and acquisitions.
There's numbers.
What I'll do is I'll do a market summary. So when they're ready to take a company, so M&A, mergers and acquisitions, is a business where they buy and sell companies.
Okay.
And I don't do that business, but I advise that business. So one of my clients does that, and they hire me to do go-to market strategies and starts tomorrow. Right? So all day tomorrow, I'm picking up my research, and they provide the research. I got to finish digesting it and then write, right? And I cannot sit at a computer and just write. I have to write it out by
Right,
hand.
yeah, that's, cause I go to the
Out
computer
by hand.
afterwards.
Write the main section, get the key points down. Something different happens when you're working
Yeah,
with hand. And then I go to the computer. And
Yes, sir.
yeah, that's what, see, cause even when you show them sheets,
So,
like,
Let
yeah.
me show you. You do the same thing with numbers. It's very old fashioned, but that's why I brought these.
I don't even think paper and pen exists
Yes, sir,
anymore.
Reggie. Not that one here. Yes, sir.
And you may never use this.
I'm
But
gonna use it.
this is that sheet that I talked
Yeah,
to
that's
you about.
Woo!
I'm gonna
Yo,
use
that needs to be in a it framed. We need to frame that. I want one of those sheets. I'm framing mine
Okay, you can frame it.
with your autograph on it too.
No,
by the way.
No, don't.
It's
It's just, it's literally SBA Form 1100.
No, this is nice, bro.
Written out.
And it already has the Renegade CFO.
Yeah, I stuck a little logo on there.
Bro, I'm
And it's
definitely
disclaimer.
gonna frame this.
Wow.
I put it
Bullshit.
I'm framing this, bro. I'm gonna put it right here on the wall.
This form was originally adapted from SBA Form 1120. I gotta give credit where credit's due. It's not my form. I just made it simple.
Right,
You know.
simplify.
But what you do is the first thing I would do with this sheet is I'd write what periods I want to deal with.
Okay.
It could be 3, 6, all 12. It could be 12 through 24, and you have a second page. You just decide. It could be by week, whatever you want, right? And then I would start to say, well, where am I going to bring cash in?
Right.
What am I going to spend it on? All right. And before I start totaling stuff up, and I would use a pencil for all of this, right? I'd go across. I would really start to think what's supposed to happen and by when.
Yeah.
Because that's what you would want to have integrity with.
This is the spreadsheet.
Yeah.
That's just a spreadsheet, but you know, I went into banking in 1987, right?
Right.
And I was at a place called Bank of Boston, right? You know, it doesn't exist anymore. But I got to see the end of the era that came before me, right? An era where there was a bank officer's dining room, right? You had to use the bank officer's dining room. It was so stuffy. It was amazing. But it was the end of the old boy era. Right? So I got to see all that and how it worked. I was like, damn, no wonder. They had a department called the spreading department, all right, where people sat and did this all day long by hand. And then they would type it up, and they would bring it to you. You know, then somebody invented something called a personal computer. And a lot of us young guys ran out and bought a Tandy. You know, went to Radio Shack. Remember Radio Shack?
Yeah.
Went to Radio Shack and bought one of these things. Right? And I put my little 2 floppy drives in, and I learned how to do Lotus 1, 2, 3. Right? And that changed everything because we didn't need a spreading department. They all got laid off. Right? And we all started doing this in spreadsheets back then. You know, but when you actually want to, you know, get real with yourself, you get a cup of coffee, you sit down, you get your pencil, you sharpen it up, and you think about what you're telling yourself on every line you invent. Oh, I'm gonna hire Joe. Put Joe on that line. When am I gonna do that? Not this month. Maybe in 2 months. I better start having that conversation with him. Then down here you write, have conversation with Joe. Okay. I need to get that space. Okay. When by when? Do it over here. Put in some numbers. They're probably gonna raise the price on me. Well, I'll get a discount for this. You know, you think it all through,
I like
right?
it.
And then do the spreadsheet and automate it and whatnot.
Right.
You know, but you know.
This is like the brainstorm.
That's it. But it's also that million points. So you don't have to keep it all in your head.
Right.
You know, and when you're talking to whomever you're talking to, a resource, trying to make a sales call, talking to an investor, you're speaking into the framework that you've already created. Right? And they will get that you're not just speaking off the top of your head.
Right.
I would love to see the sheet that she had on the screen where it showed the actual numbers.
Yeah, sure.
The holes and what you talked about.
Like I'm walking over to the computer, like it's like I need to be there. I have this little clicker in my pocket, right? Somehow I think standing next to things doesn't make it work. You know what?
I'd like to say these two brothers speak French, so I'm a fan of listening.
Oh,
I'm a fan. I just, I didn't mean to just throw that out randomly,
it sounded pretty random.
These brothers speak beautiful French, bro. Beautiful French. Duji Chambon and Hakeem Daya.
Okay.
Yeah, man.
But we spoke on the phone the other day.
That's the ones y'all spoke on the phone. Yeah, that's the one.
I didn't realize that was you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Let me just go up and let's see what are we doing here.
I speak Chinese.
It's
Really? Ni hao ma.
Shishir.
Oh no, it's not.
Go share.
You gotta be careful. You're at the House of Saul. Anything is possible.
Anything.
Okay.
Indian said something.
Anything is possible.
Can't pretend up in here.
It's too small.
It's
Is it too small?
That should work.
Yeah, maybe actually project it so it's not so small, granular. Boink, boink. There we go.
But you express that having, like, starting on a home is actually to your advantage because you can have some more money.
This is essentially a form for an analysis, right? So what I like to do is to analyze the extent of my needs before I make an ask, right? So what I was doing in these prior sheets, I don't have to go back here, you just click the thing. I'm kind of disoriented with all these things. What I was doing here is I was saying, all right, what about here? I was saying, as I watch the needs create a negative cash, it's actually telling me how much cash I need, right? Because when I start, I don't know how much to ask for, right?
So like these, for example, the 1700, what would that be for?
Which 1700?
The period 4.
Period 4, 17, yeah. So that's a negative, I'm starting my period with a negative 1700, and I'm ending it with a negative 5600, right? Except an ending cash balance down here, okay? And it's just trailing through and trailing through and trailing through. So
how
what
do you go from 1700 to 5?
to buy? Oh, because the way this works is I have cash in and cash out and a net. So if I've started with 1700, right? But I have a net, negative of 39, when I add the two together, I get 56.
And that's money that you don't have.
Yeah, but again, this is the beauty of finance. It's money I don't have, but I don't care because this is just a projection. This is not my reality yet, right? So I'm actually using it to sensitize. I'm using it to analyze how much of a need I have.
Right.
Yeah.
Say for instance, I'll write something like this, right?
Yep.
Go from period 4, which is maybe 4 weeks or 2
4
months
months,
away.
yeah.
4 months away. I said by then I'm going to get a, let's say, storage or a building that have to store whatever it is that I'm selling, and it's gonna cost me 1700. Now write that. Write that.
So every time you put a number in here, it's gonna ripple and change.
Yeah, because he built on to get there.
Yeah,
He
this is
came to that. Because
this is
Ian
what I-
explained that parentheses, those represent negative. Because he started off with the bank sheets and then we got there. So the middle stuff is like, the middle stuff is where he had explained. That's like where you would put the warehouse and all them expenses in the middle.
You need to see it. Let's just
Yeah.
do it. Let's just do it. I'm gonna unplug my computers, okay?
Please. Well, you gonna unplug it?
Try to do it here. Well, I could try to do it here.
Yeah, that would be lovely.
Okay.
It's still on.
What? It's still on?
Yeah, it is.
Oh my gosh.
It's amazing, bro.
Let's see what I can do. Let's see if I can find something here.
Brother Dapper, man. He's Dapper. Yo, bro, we gotta take a picture. All of us, man. We just gotta take a picture, man.
I'm not sure where I could find it.
Anybody in here play chess, bro?
Oh, Dapper, yeah.
You play chess?
It doesn't. Can I turn it off? Recording my screen right now.
Yes.
It seemed like my wife ready to push.
I'm just gonna go through my files here and see if I can find
Yeah, I'm
if
gonna
it
just let me
works.
see this this insight from him. We can play it.
I need to. Yeah, it's good for the mind.
Where would I have it?
Focus on.
This is a nice piece too.
Yeah, this particular one.
Imported from
Yeah.
Kenya. From Kenya, imported.
Wow, look at the king and the queen.
Mm-hmm. Lion and lioness. Got rhinoceros editions.
Right.
Oh, I know where I can get it. I can
Right.
get it.
This throws the whole game.
Right.
Right. Animals, not characters. Or
Right.
yeah, that's
Micah,
off the
I
chain.
have it in Micah.
We even went to Dubai here.
I have them in here.
The pawns is like deer.
It looked like Anubis.
No, not
I thought
there.
it was Anubis. It looked like you know ancient Kemet, like how the that's how Anubis looked in ancient Kemet. And the Tiru. It reminds me of that. It could be another animal though, like a kangaroo or something, but it reminds me of Anubis.
I gotta make sure that this one is working the right way. But this is just another version of the same thing, right?
Okay.
So I could
That's a kang right
say,
there.
all right, let me
That's a kang.
this is
Shaq, you only mean,
zoom in on this a little bit more.
what is it? Is that Cash App the only way you want to do? Okay, so I'll send it to Pure and then he'll send it to you.
Okay.
There, I can see that a little bit better. So you might say, okay, like what's your business?
I make art.
Art, okay. So you sell the art?
I do. Like for instance, pieces like these are like canvas prints.
Okay.
Where I make like a multitude of
Canvas prints.
different
Wow.
replicas that are actually one of my top selling pieces.
Okay.
And where I could make the piece one time and sell the replicas known to the original for museums and different types of showings.
Mhm.
So some of my investments would go towards like printing. Some of these say I make like hundreds, right? And just put them in places where they can be sold. This around the city.
Like we ain't gonna get attached to them people. Like,
So you could have a line item called art sales, right? You could have. Do you do any consignment or anything like that, or?
I have a ton of albums.
Sometimes artists sell through consignment. Like they'll put their art in a gallery and just wait for it to sell.
Yeah.
But let's keep it simple. Then you have reproduction cost, right? You have
And then there's like
warehouse costs.
yeah.
Okay. You have advertising.
Yes.
Okay. And what else might you have?
Studio.
Oh yeah.
Studio space.
Put that up top. Studio, like where you do work.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gallery space. I also have like within my studio is also a studio and gallery simultaneously.
Okay. Well, let's start with just this, all right? And let's say, what does your studio cost?
3,500.
3,500. All right. So make that a negative 3,500, right? Like that. Okay. And that's per month.
When's the next
Yes.
session?
Okay. So let's go this, and we'll do it for 12 months, right? All right. So already, that's what those look like. So you're going to spend $42,000 a year on studio space.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you have the cost of reproduction, right?
Yeah.
So how much would you spend, say, in the first month on that?
Depending on the piece.
Mm-hmm.
I would normally go the piece that are most popular or appreciated by my audience.
Mm-hmm.
Say I roughly between 25 to 10,000.
Okay. So let's put 2,500 to 10,000, or 25,000 to 10,000.
No, 2,500 to 10,000.
Or you want to put in, say, what do you want to put in for the first month?
Quick interruption.
Yes.
That's how that's within for me at the restaurant. But I think I believe I saw you before. I'm not sure. Maybe Madison, maybe Shaq's area, maybe your event. I don't know. But I want to give that. But also, you'd spend time, whatever, but I would like to get your phone number.
Sure.
If you can, and then
This nigga's the
kind
guy.
of introduce who we are and just, just talk to you about where, this plays a major role for us as well.
Sure,
as far as
sure.
getting our numbers right. So,
Saul's got my
do you have a
info.
card?
I
Yeah.
do have a card.
Okay.
I don't want to show it to the artist because it's very simple and not artistic.
Blessings. Thank you, and it was a pleasure.
Oh, you heading out?
Yeah, we
Okay.
are. Yes, we are.
All
gonna
right.
head out.
We should take a picture of everyone that's here, man.
I would love to
Like,
take a
she
picture.
Will not turn that down.
Okay.
Sure.
Well, we should, because it's gonna help House of Salt.
Oh,
Say, like, people come by and we're here and we did this
Right in
thing.
front of art.
We did the Darren Barry.
We did it.
Where's
Good Johnson. Johnson.
Johnson.
Oh, the back door open.
Yeah, that seemed like he must have creeped out.
Think he upstairs?
I think so. Yeah, nice picture, man. We looking fly.
Notice that's the thing.
It's okay.
We won't be going up and down. Notice that. You have a little phone call.
It's unfortunate we won't get to play.
Oh, you gotta be in the picture. You gotta be in the picture.
Oh yeah? No, I'm going
Looking
to.
forward
you
to
gotta
my
be
children.
Okay.
It's like, it doesn't work if you're not in the
Like,
picture.
you? Yeah, you're right.
Just do a selfie.
Oh, you do a selfie?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I like selfies.
You know,
Selfies are very classic, bro.
everyone just gathers with one
Yeah,
arm up.
selfies are classic.
Oh, Johnson didn't answer.
Yeah, it's okay.
Set a timer. I'm the old guy, I'm not supposed to know how to do all this stuff.
You missed out on the selfie.
You missed out on the grand picture.
Is that all right, man? Oh, yeah. There you go,
It's all in
King.
the right place. No, we gotta, if we pivot
Shaq,
this way,
you
we'll
got-
get
you
better
got
light.
close enough.
We'll get better
Oh, that
light.
lighting looks beautiful.
Yeah, over yourself. Ready? No, you gotta get closer, Saul.
Okay.
Closer. Closer. Alright, ready?
Come on, soul.
Here we go.
Love me, this
Okay, it's counting down. 4, 3, 2, cheese. Oh, that's kind of. Let's see how that
The
came
brighter
out.
prior, right?
Let's see how that came out. See if Apple does its thing with the algorithms. That's not too bad.
That's not bad. Lighting is great.
Not bad.
Wow, that show that you got on, bro, it's like fire, bro.
Yeah.
Yo, that's worked out.
Yeah, right before the pig.
Yeah.
You ready for one more?
I'll text you. Want to do one more?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh yeah, it's a different quality. Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, no, we got the photographer here. You know what I'm saying? Let's get it right. It's the.
Want to change position, or maybe come up? If we come up, we get better light, maybe.
Oh yeah.
And maybe we put Saul in the middle.
Oh yeah, I can get
Like,
it.
do a real
So.
professional shot. When if you sit, we can get closer, get a tighter shot.
Oh, if I sit. Oh, if I sit. Oh,
Yeah,
if I
then we
sit
give
in
you
the
the
back.
control. You come up a little bit.
Like this? Then we can just lean on it like this. Oh yeah.
There we go.
Oh yeah.
Ready? All right,
Like a
10,
midget.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Oh, hang on. I hit a button. Wait, count on again. 3, 2, 1. See how that
Yeah, right? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I like it. Then I had to throw the necklace in there, you know what I'm saying? Let them know.
Oh yeah, that light is better.
Yeah. Oh, I love that, yo. I love that.
I'm singing Saul. I'll text,
Just
I'll
gonna
text
be
both
upset,
of you.
man. He's gonna be upset.
He'll be okay.
He's not gonna be okay, bro.
Like,
You
he's
missed
not
the
gonna be
selfie,
okay.
bro.
You're gonna be like, yo.
You missed the
I was
selfie,
there for
bro.
the
That's
2
different.
hour
Yo,
meeting
we
and missed the
depression.
selfie.
Yeah, like he said, he said a week of depression. That necklace, Shrimp, that necklace though?
It's King's.
Yeah.
I bought it for him.
I was wondering where it looks so familiar. I was
Yeah.
like, I've seen that necklace before.
it's his.
It was
I
on your
snatched-
neck.
It was
on
neck.
his neck.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
And I did a snatch.
so
of
here's
it.
what we're doing.
I see it.
So let's put in let's ramp it up, right?
guy.
Ramp it up from
Yeah.
2,500,
Doing a little something.
right?
All right.
I'm just totally making it up, right? To 5,000, right? To
Especially my spreadsheet.
Spreadsheet.
7,500.
Family?
Okay.
Yes,
To 10.
Adios, adios, amigo.
Adios.
Adios,
and
amiga.
like that, or
This
do you,
isn't mine.
It's
That
a
do you reproduce
strong
every
card,
month, or is
yes.
it like
This
every
card
other
is like
month, or?
unbreakable.
Yeah, I aim to produce whenever I make sales. So as
Oh, okay.
as they go out, I
Simple,
make more.
Okay.
Firm.
But if you spend $2,500, this is the kind of thinking you get into to reproduce, and you had sales. How long would that inventory last?
It varies on how active
I was saying that your card,
Uh-huh.
strong card.
Okay.
Strong.
Uh,
Board you use, right?
Thank
So
you.
impactful.
So what would the sales be from that expenditure?
So, for instance, one of these, say like a size like this, for instance, would be like
Line everybody up.
anywhere between 25 to 7.
It's good meeting you. Be in touch. Yeah.
Definitely be in touch.
Yes,
That's a
sir.
family.
That's a family.
Thank you.
It's
Thank y'all
alright.
so much. Isaac's
I'm
king.
gonna be
Thank you.
5,000 per piece.
5,000 per piece. So this makes how many pieces?
So,
I got a few facts.
as in the 2,500.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I heard it. I got it.
I mean, we got a spreadsheet. We can do the math here too.
Yes, sir.
Well, 2,500.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You know, good God. Bless family.
For that size to make it is like $35.
Okay.
So that would be like 25 divided by 35.
Okay. So let's do that. 25. Well, we can do it even easier. The price is 35 or to per piece, right? So the number of pieces is going to be, this is where spreadsheets help, the reproduction cost divided by the unit cost, right? So 71 pieces. I'm sorry, that's incorrect. Let me do this. No, that's correct. And I could round that. So let's round that. Round this to 0 decimal places. There we go. So 71 pieces. How long does it take to sell 71 pieces?
It varies on where and how active I am, but it can take a month or two.
A month or two. Let's give it 2 months.
Yeah.
All right. So then we don't need to reproduce anymore for 2 months. Right. So we'll put no cost here, and we'll put the 5,000 here. But you see how this is making us think,
Yeah.
right? So now I've created like what, 142 pieces?
Yeah.
If I make that many, and we're assuming that we're selling more, right? So we could build a subroutine here that tracks the inventory and the rate of sales. For each piece, what's the price, the retail price?
Between 25 to 5,000.
So we could average that out.
Yeah, let's say about $3,500.
3,500. Okay,
Yeah.
so
But then it also varies. So
yeah.
especially if we have like a large amount, because it wouldn't hurt to sell it for less, depending on our
True.
client.
Well,
So
if you had 71 pieces, and the retail price is $3,500 a piece, that's $248,000 worth of potential income.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So the question is, how fast do you earn that? And if you're saying it's 2 months, this is an incredibly profitable business, right?
Yeah.
Because even if I took half of that and sold it here, right? Right? And then I took the other half and sold it here, right? I'm way, way ahead of the game financially. Right? So we kind of want to start to think, is this real? Am I charging too much? Am I charging too little? Can I actually move this number of pieces? Have you earned that historically?
No.
Okay, so then maybe.
I've never made that.
Well, this is where we want to test our assumptions, all right?
Yeah.
That's why we do this, all right? Because like your face just changed. Your face was like, nah, like
Yeah.
that's what you're telling me, all right? So either we're really missing out here, or we have to adjust the assumption, right?
Yeah.
So what has been your experience selling? Like how many pieces have you sold in the past 12 months?
Between
I'm a no judgment zone, by the way. You know,
No, receive. I'm really just trying to calculate,
Yeah, that's
right?
fine. Take your time.
Approximately like 30 to 45.
30 to 45?
Yeah.
Let's use 45. Okay, and what's the average price been?
Between 500 to
Mhm.
6,500.
Okay, so if you were to average it out among those 45 pieces,
Let's say 2,500.
2,500? Okay, 2,500. So if we took 45 times 2,500, in 12 months you've made about 112,000? What's that?
Yeah, just about actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other way to check it is to, like when I did the other presentation, we started with a bank statement, right? So one way to kind of get your grounding on this is to just go back to your bank statement. And we just look at the whole bank statement and say, okay, what's so? You know, because
Yeah.
from what's so now you can course correct and adjust, all right? You might say, okay, the business I'm in is what? It's fine art, it's selling reproductions. You know, who's the market for that? And what does that market bear, right? Because I get the reproductions aren't priced the same as the original art, but you might also sell original art.
Yeah, I do
Right.
as well actually.
Yeah. So people will pay $6,000 for original art, right? And and please don't take this the wrong way, but there are people who don't appreciate art who are like, well, it doesn't match my couch, you know? It's like, but that they'll pay $750 for a piece of art that will match their freaking couch, right? So that might be a viable market, right? That sells on its own without you having to do more work every time, right?
Yeah.
So maybe you have 2, maybe 3 regular ongoing lines of business, right? Like one is fine art, one is reproduction, and maybe something is, I don't know, commissioned works. I'm sort of making it up.
Yeah. There's also like murals that I do
Oh
around
my
the
God.
city.
Yeah, murals, that's 4.
And then the classes.
And classes?
Yeah.
Okay, look, so let's just now I'm getting excited, see? So when I look up here, I'm like, all right, I can't just call it art sales. I have to call it fine, I'm gonna actually erase these numbers too. Fine art. You've got reproductions. You've got murals. I'm gonna insert a line here. And we're going to call this training. Okay? So when you think about your business, it's like, okay, you've got 4 different ways to make money.
Yeah. And also, one that I'm aiming to get more into is funding through government.
Okay.
Whereas, because it costs to do the projects that I do, especially like, for instance, exhibitions, like showings that teaches the public. And one that I'm working on right now, the theme is connecting with my father who passed away. And when he passed on, he left a multitude of art behind as well.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in a sketchbook for me to finish this work.
Wow.
So that project is showing and honoring my father.
Mm-hmm.
And one, I'm showing his story,
Mm-hmm.
which is something that's very touching to those that are just anybody that's living, that's
Mhm.
connected to one of parents or that lost their parents or that still have parents that they want to honor more or they can honor better.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that,
Wow, that's deep. And that's funded by the government?
I want it to be.
Oh. Let's put that in a category we call grants. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So far in this exercise, we've identified 5 different sources of income.
Yeah.
Right? Grants, fine art, and we'll call it fine art sales. Right? Reproduction, we'll call that sales. Training and murals. I'm going to say murals / commissioned art. Commissioned works. Right? Because murals are commissioned, right?
Yeah, and also murals, government, for instance, say that this neighborhood, for instance, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can pitch to local art commissioners in Baltimore to beautify this neighborhood. And say,
Mhm.
look, we have this building, for example, we know the owner, we spoke with the owner, and they would love to have this beautiful art that talks to the neighborhood or that teaches people about, for example, this piece,
Mm-hmm.
enjoying
Is
the
this your
moment.
work?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know for sure if it's your work or not. This is
Yeah.
great work, man.
Much love.
That is great work.
Yeah, and that's and Brother Shabazz, you know, he founded the Black Arts District,
Mm-hmm.
and that's also, I believe, is a non-profit, brother.
So it was nationally recognized. What they, I don't know what they call it, a monument or whatever. Just
Okay.
like what they say, like the when you were talking about the
Tech hub, yeah.
Yeah, so Pennsylvania Avenue became nationally recognized as a
Right,
Black Arts Entertainment District. Now, as far as it being a non-profit, we have fiscal agents and fiscal sponsors, but we haven't memorialized that as a actual non-profit.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
But the designation exists.
Yeah, but the designation
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the status.
That was my understanding, yeah.
Yeah, the status operates. It's just, you know, we didn't want to. I didn't want to. Yeah, I was partnering with the state at first when I started it, and we had this. That's when the youth fund had started. At that time, it was like $3.something million that was being dispersed for
Mhm.
communities,
Mm-hmm.
and we had to organize a task force for the Black Arts District, and
Okay.
that's where a lot of the confusion came into play, because they had a task force with like leaders of a beautiful struggle over here.
Oh yeah,
this
I know those
person over
guys.
this,
Yeah.
and they put us all on the same board, and they didn't know I was the founder, nor did they know I was the one that got them in the Arc Social Club, because the Arc Social Club, they didn't have a board for artists to sit on the board. It was just a Black men's social club. They were there just watching football
Got
games
it.
and stuff like that.
Yeah,
And when I came there,
yeah. Like, no, let's actually do something.
yeah, you know, yeah,
Got
and
it.
they had to waive the Constitution for me too, because you had to be 35 in order to be a member there, and I was 23 at the time. Yeah, I was like 23 at the time, and I waived the Constitution for me, and that's, you know, when I got in there and established the Arc Social Community Network, and that's when we created the Black Arts District.
Got it.
Revitalization efforts off of that.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. I mean, I knew it existed, but I didn't know some of that background.
Yeah.
And here, you can see the process, right?
Yeah.
Like, it actually makes you stop and think, like, okay, now wait a minute. I have these things. What did I already do? Given what I've done, what's my plan? What's the strategy going forward? Like, among these different things, do you have a staff?
Somewhat.
Not yet. Somewhat. Okay.
I have a manager
Mm-hmm.
that worked with me.
Okay.
I had this one an assistant manager that would do more of the handy things.
Mm-hmm.
Applying for different opportunities,
Mhm.
but we had to release
Okay, but there's a role that could be fulfilled at some point.
for sure. Also,
Okay.
a marketer as well that help with the brand image and projecting that
It's
to
hard for
like,
me
the
to type
public,
like this.
similar to PR of some sort.
Okay. This is more for me to keep track of what you're saying. Okay, and you had a PR person.
Yeah. And
Okay. So, time, money, categories. How would you want to do this? Because you're going to have to think about some things and look back on some things and then kind of craft your next step.
yeah. I have it died.
Ah,
No, that's but essentially, what do you mean by that exactly?
I mean that as I'm sitting and looking at this, I'm thinking, okay, let's take it one by one,
Yeah.
right? Grants. Um, not holding ourselves to anything, just speculating. What grants would be incoming in the next 12 months, right? And you don't have to answer the question, but that's the question, right?
Yeah.
Then same thing, fine art sales. Not only what would they be, but like what's the component of that, right? It doesn't all live on one line. We have a spreadsheet. We can go and do all kinds of calculations elsewhere. We can say, well, let me think. I'm going to make a piece. All right. What does that take? How much does that cost? How much space do I need? How long, how many will I have? And then maybe that's the piece. I'm making this up, but I'm just modeling how the thought might go. Maybe that piece is one of the ones that I turn into a reproduction piece. Okay, great. So it takes me a month or 2, 3 to perfect the piece, and then I'll spend the $2,500 to go make 71 of them that I can sell to people, right? And those will sell over the next 3-4 months. Great. Well, let me build a part of my spreadsheet where I can see those sales. So I incur the cost, I see the sales come back. It's that period of time, but that's a 6-month period of time to make the art, to reproduce it, and then subsequently sell, right? And a lot can go faster, some could go slower, but if I do with just that one piece, okay, great. Now may I do a second piece? Maybe I can, in 12 months, I do 3 pieces, right? Okay. Or maybe you work faster or differently, but it's like, okay, getting those different components, to talk to each other here. Like by the time you have, 200 pieces of reproduced art based on, 2.5 works that are fine art, then you're going to need to have the assistant manager and the manager and the marketing, right?
Yeah.
But you might also have the sales, right? Sell one piece of the fine art, and that probably pays for a few months of something else, right? And by the time you've sold those 71 pieces, well, now you're super cash positive, if the numbers and pricing hold. So it's all that thinking, that we could get on a sheet. And then that becomes the plan. And of course, the first thing that happens when you do the plan is it changes, right?
Yeah.
What is it you're thinking that you're not saying?
It's execution.
Okay.
for instance, say for grants, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's something that's been on my itinerary for a while,
Mm-hmm.
and it has not been executed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I applied for one back in DC,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm currently, but I was to beautify Columbia Heights,
Oh wow. Okay.
and that's where my gallery space is, right?
Okay.
And that space. It's a building on the corner of Newton and 14th Street. It's
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
the side of it, it's blank.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually got petitions and etc. from neighbors to sign and say that they want to see this.
Mm-hmm.
But long story short, that's something that they didn't go through. They didn't want to fund it because of certain things I was lacking in the actual application,
Mm-hmm.
and they asked me to do it again next year
Okay.
and stuff like that.
Is now next year? Okay.
Yeah,
What's the deadline?
I think it's in June or July.
Okay.
Something like that.
And when would they make the award?
Around September.
Okay.
Um,
So this masquerades as a finance exercise. It's not a finance exercise. It's a planning exercise, right? It's perfectly fine for you to say, you know what, I don't have the bandwidth to do this. I'm not going to do the grant. Or turn the page and say, well, what if I did do the grant, then what else will I not do? I mean, it's a planning tool. You've got to use the planning tool to get yourself comfortable with committing to a course of action, right?
yeah,
Saying, I'm going to do it all is not working for you.
yeah,
So you use the planning tool and the money, the planning of the money to figure out what's the most effective thing for you to do, right? Now it could be that you actually don't have to worry about the grant because it doesn't mean you have any money until September or October, right? And you don't have to, work on the hard part until, another month or two because you already did a bunch of work and the submission's in June and this is February, right? So you can look at the plan and say, oh, well, if I actually planned out how this would get done, like by when I need to take the actions, right, to produce the numbers on the page, it's like I don't actually have to worry about it right now. I can choose at the end of March if I'm actually going to go ahead with the whole grant thing this year. Or if I need to tell people in March, it's not going to happen this year because I just don't have the bandwidth to do it. Or maybe I hire someone to do it because I sold enough art, or I can hire somebody else to go do it to be ready for the fall, right? So don't worry about it yet. Plan it. Yeah.
yeah,
Because you got some other stuff you could be doing, right?
yeah,
The tool is to take things apart, right? And see what works. Not to put it all on you. If you can look at one number and go like, that's not going to happen. Because behind the number is a series of actions. Don't see numbers when you see numbers. See, are the actions appropriate to produce the result? And if you can't do enough actions, well, you're not going to produce the result, right? And then we just remodel it and remodel it. Remember, we've done nothing yet. We've just thought it through,
yeah,
all right? You strike me as someone who is thoughtful. Yeah, you can probably envisage how many things would go, right? So don't overwhelm yourself. Just take one at a time, and then when you've got two of them figured out, then put them together and see, well, if I put these two things together, now I've thought them through, I put them together, does it still work, or am I making a big mess? If I'm making a big, okay, let's stop. Which one really makes a difference for me? Oh, okay, well, like my example of the artwork, if I'm going to sell a piece of fine art that doesn't exist yet, and also sell it as reproductions, right? That's not a 1 week process, right?
Yeah.
That's 6 months of work between creating the art, right, getting it set, having it reproduced, selling the reproductions, paying for it all. It's like, okay, how does my week go if I've got, 2 or 3 or 4 of those in a year? Well, maybe that's enough, especially if the numbers work. I don't know that the numbers work, right? Like, what if the price of the reproductions is more like $500 than $2,500? I mean, it's still a viable business because you're only spending $2,500 to make them, right? So, that works because you've got 70 of them,
Yeah.
And if you sold just a few, it's already paid for its cost, right? So if those prices even hold in a basic way, it's not a bad business. You just have to be sure you can sell them,
Yeah.
right? Even if the price was half, if it's $250 and you sold 10, you still covered the cost.
That's true. And it's really a personal thing too. Meaning, I've had more successful experiences with selling when I have a personal connection with the buyer. Whereas, like, say a person come in and see this piece.
Mm-hmm.
They look at it, they appreciate it, but they walk away. If they come to this piece and then I'm right here and they interact with me and I tell them a bit about the piece, explain to them, and then tell them a bit about myself. Now they are more drawn and so, you know what, I want to get this because it, one, commemorates the experience that they had.
Yeah.
You know?
That makes sense.
Yeah. So
But that's selling an original piece.
No, it works for these pieces as well, the canvas prints.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, so
Maybe you need to get out more.
Exactly.
Put a transportation budget in here.
Yeah, that's really one of the main things, to one, get out more, have more showings, exhibitions.
Do you have social media?
I do, actually.
Is that effective for promoting sales?
Yeah. Yes and no, right? Most of my sales come from more one-on-one, but then people see the stuff on social media and then come to my personal space.
Yeah, it makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, so they're, oh, I want to come, it's cool, but, you know.
Yeah.
And when they do come, then that personal connection happens, and then they, you know what, I'm moved by this. I wanna get this.
How about press coverage?
Yes, but it's not as consistent.
Yeah.
May I share something with you?
Yeah, sure.
This is something that I'm currently working on, and I'm seeking to get funding for. Okay, this is one of the stories that I'm aiming to sell. And right now, this is currently being showed at the Strathmore.
It's very Toussaint looking.
Precisely.
Who shot the video?
I received this book from my father as a diary.
All right. Yes.
He was in hospital in Brooklyn, New York, next to my grandmother. And as he was taking his dying breath, he told my grandmother, if I don't get to see him, give this book to my son. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see him. So I received the book from my grandmother. In this book, there was a message. It was a blueprint. But he didn't get to finish it. It was only 3 pages in. But I finished it for him. In this book, I turned each page into a painting.
Wow.
This to die. I didn't get to know him a whole lot while I was growing up, but he came in my life a little later, and I was eager to receive him. From that to this. For it's really vital for a young man to have a dad in their life. And I remember growing up, I was wondering where mine was at. From this to that. When he came in my life, I was very grateful to have known him. From that to this. I was proud that he was my dad. Proud to have shared his DNA.
Nice light work.
Honored to be his son.
Good with light.
I appreciate his courage, his love. He came to my shows, we painted together, and that's something that I forever cherish.
Is it acrylic or
The sketch of it
and oil.
and oil?
the blueprint to this body of work. An unspoken message from my father to me, and me to you.
Well, what are you going to do with that?
I want to, this is one of the aspects where I would take this and have exhibitions showcasing pieces within this video.
Mm-hmm.
And the goal is to get funding so I can want to house my father's work
Mm-hmm.
and showcase it.
Where is it now?
It's in New Jersey in his wife's house.
Ah, okay, so it's not being curated anywhere, it's not being, okay.
So, and the Dead's artist.
She's aligned with that?
Yeah,
Okay.
like she's all for me
Okay,
taking that on.
yeah.
And you know, a Dead's artist's work is a gold mine. For one, he's not alive in the flesh.
Has it been appraised?
No.
Yeah. So you need control of the art, you need secure storage, you need an appraisal. Right. That'll probably take a big load off your mind.
Yeah.
And for this, you were pursuing grants.
Grants, funding, private investors,
Yeah.
anybody that's willing to push this forward. There's a lot to gain from it, even things that I can't even foresee just yet.
Yeah, so you need control. So control, looks like you need to have the art in a safe place that you have the key to,
Yeah.
right? It's great saying it on a wall or in a room or someplace that is, wife's place. That's okay, but yeah. Yeah, you have two competing interests, right? And one is curating and taking care of that body of work, yours and his, right?
Yeah.
And the second is sustaining your own business.
Yeah.
I can't tell you which to focus on. You would know better. You know.
Yeah.
And my recommendation is that you get really clear on what each takes to do. And you can use a sheet like this, but just, you know, you're going to have to let go of thinking about it so much so that you can actually get it done. I don't know if that makes sense. You know,
It does.
I've only really met you. First, my observation is like, your grip is too tight. It's like, so my parents were artists, you know, not in a different scale than you're dealing. And one of the things that used to mesmerize me was watching my mother do brushwork. She was a commercial artist, right? And I could just watch her do brushwork. You know, just she had a flow. You know, she worked a lot with gouache and ink. You know, and I just sit there and go, like, just wow. But I was really clear. If you hold that brush too tight, you can't do anything with it. It's not an extension of anything. It's just, you know, it's you know, I mean, that's what will come out in the work, you know.
Yeah.
But if you can be fluid with it, I think business is very much the same. You know, when you hold it too tight, it doesn't work. It has to kind of do its own thing, you know, in a somewhat controlled manner, you know, but you can't choke it, right? So it seems like you have two competing challenges, you know, and if you're holding them like, I gotta figure out, and it's just the energy's gonna get jammed up and stagnant, right? So it could be you're going to need to find the right people to support you in dealing with, you know, your dad / your art, right? And that whole, because you got a whole promotional thing that's possible there, right? That someone needs to take on, right? While you make the work happen, you know. Clearly with a strong creative control dimension, you know. But if you're making every video and lifting every piece of art into a truck and going, it's endless. It will never get done. In the meantime, all the places that you could be working, painting, showing up won't be happening, right? So I don't have the answer for that, but I can see that you've got to, I wouldn't say separate. You have to honor both things. They can exist. They can coexist, right? You kind of have to just take a beat, take a breath, and come back at it, you know? Because it's intense. It's intense, sir, you know? So I'd say don't do planning while you're in that intense mode. You know, take a beat. It's art too. So many people not to trust. You know, that's my experience with the art world. Is like there's a lot of shysters. You know, so. I'm trying to. Who do I know that would even be remotely, you know, would even point me in the right direction? I can see if I can make some inquiries around Micah. You have any connection there with those people?
Micah?
Yeah, Maryland Institute College of Art. Yeah, okay. I can ask some people there to point me in the right direction. It might take a while. They're not fast. But that's our local art school, you know.
Yeah.
I do work with them. I do training with them, you know. So I sort of ask some people like, hey, I want to get smart about how you promote a portfolio of work. Who do you know? And see if I can, you know, refer some people. And then on the other side, that whole world of, you know, galleries and showing, I don't know anyone in that world, you know. But that seems to be like the world you'd want to move in. I can ask a friend of mine.
Yeah.
I have a friend who's in the media business who has a ton of friends. What's your website, by the way?
It's
Where should I write that down? I should write it on my phone.
yeah. It's DEWW dot. Whenever you're ready.
Yeah, give me 2 seconds so I can. I got 2 minutes. I have 500 tabs open. Isn't that awful?
Yeah. Same here. That's really the same lingo.
Okay. DEW. Yeah.
Dot world.
Dot world.
Mhm.
Dot world. Okay. Okay. And the work is here. That's great. And you can buy things online too.
Yeah.
All right. And is any of what you shared here?
That
Not
video?
yet? Yeah.
No.
Not yet. Okay.
It's like really exclusive.
Okay. Am I at liberty to talk about it at all?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, yeah, for sure.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to talk to a friend of mine she's just super connected about the events, arts, promotion, that whole world. And then I will reach out to people at MICA and see if I can learn anything about how to curate, promote, fund a retrospective generational exhibition. That's really what it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you selling enough art now? Like, how's business?
It's happening,
Okay.
but I fear that I'm a bit spread thin from all over, so I can't be as active for most sales happen with that connection that I told you about.
Yeah. So you're gonna have to stop doing something for a little while.
Yeah.
You have to choose. It sounds like you know what works, right?
Yeah.
You just have to do it. So you can't do it all. At least not yet. For you to do it all, you need a team, right? And it sounds like for a team, you need at least some income, if not grants or some way to commission their work, right? So yeah, I wouldn't worry about saying no. It's a powerful thing. Yeah. It turns out people who can't say no, never make a good yes. Yeah. So I wouldn't worry too much about it.
That's heavy. Thanks.
No problem. When you're ready, we can always look at numbers, but I think these things are all in your head. So it's not a discovery process, it's an organization process. So I think,
Yeah.
okay, I'm happy, and you should enroll whoever you can to make calls to see if how you can get resources to move these things forward, right? So I'll do those two things and follow back up with you. I don't have your contact information, do I?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Or is there some weird Apple thing we can do to share? I'll just type it here. Okay. First name is
Dougy. It's D-O-U.
D-O-U-G-O-D-G-Y. D-O-U-D...
G-Y.
D-G-Y. Got it? And then...
And the last name is Sharma.
Oh, Shama. Okay.
C-H-A-R-M-A-N-T.
Yeah, got it. And...
240. Other company?
Yeah.
It's Do World. D-E-W. Space World.
Okay. You have a phone number.
Yes, it's 240-305-2009.
Cool. Okay. Email?
It's D3W.
D3W.
Dot.
Don't email yourself enough, do you?
Nah,
It's okay.
but I have two actually. I have
It's
one
alright.
that's like for like domain, and I have like a personal one.
Okay, well, whichever one you want to give me is fine.
Yeah. I was gonna give you the personal one, but I don't remember that one.
It's okay.
Cause I use the generic ones more often. It's easier to remember.
Yeah.
Yes. .world@gmail.com.
D3W.world
Mm-hmm.
at gmail.com.
Mm-hmm. The other one is contact@do.world.
Oh, that's fine. I'll just use this one.
Yeah.
So what I'll do is I will quickly send you a text. It says, "Hi, it's Hakeem. And I'll put my email in here too. Hakeem at dyerco.us. That way we can be at least minimally in communication.
Thank you.
Got it?
Yeah.
Excellent. Cool. All right, let me save this so I don't forget it. We might come back to it at some point.
That means a lot. I received much clarity just receiving your input.
Well, I'm glad for that. It's all Sal's fault.
Yeah.
Ha!
I'm Malik Shabazz.
Yes, I.
Man, give thanks, man. This was very helpful.
I need to text my wife so she thinks I have not abandoned her.
Hey!
Yeah, that's righteous.
She's texting me.
You play chess, bro?
I do.
Yeah, I do.
What's up, brother?
You trying to do, bro?
Oh, it's like that? You trying to get active like that?
Dude,
I gotta get a meal first or something now. I gotta get a meal. We gotta go across the street or something.
So you, right?
Let's grab some. Yeah. No, not on me. My brother. You mind if I talk to Brother Hakeem real quick?
For sure.
Yeah, me just chat with him.
I'm out. Yeah.
Texting my wife one of our pictures.
Matter of fact, yeah, I'm about to hop in the book.
You about to leave?
No. I'm just sitting there and just make a phone call to you.
All right.
Okay.
Again, brother.
Pleasure. Ok. Non, on se connaît, hein?
Oui, c'est ça. C'est un plaisir de te parler aujourd'hui.
Ben oui, le plaisir c'est le mien, hein?
Merci.
Au revoir.
Au revoir. C'est ça tout à l'heure.
Yes. Okay, so it was since that I didn't have Zelle for that one she was trying to get a reservation. So so what they're gonna do is she had gave me $50 in cash.
Okay.
And then the rest is gonna be sent in cash
It's
app.
fine.
Yeah. So I
You take care. No, you just why don't you consolidate everything,
Okay.
and then when you're ready, you can send it to Cash App or whatever.
Okay. Just put it all. Just consolidate everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Just send it once.
Just so it can just be sent to cash app. Okay. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It's just, you know,
My apologies.
I actually trust you, so I don't worry about that.
Thank you.
And I just, you know, it's your event,
Yeah,
it's your
appreciate it.
space. So really, you need to be the one collecting and controlling the money.
Indeed.
Okay,
Understand.
covering the costs because
Yes.
there's obviously costs, and then you know, and handling the faculty, whoever we are,
Mm-hmm.
and then you know, so that I don't worry about like you know, well, I got this much now and this much later. Just handle it.
Okay. Just handle it.
Just handle it.
I love it, bro. Like I love that, bro. I really truly appreciate you, man. This is